Okay, gentlemen, you're live.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners workshop for August 2nd. Would you all please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first off is our airport gravel pit discussion with the town of Mancos. If you guys want to come and sit at this table where you can have the mics, that would be...
Thanks for having us here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
And then
coming.
if you'd just make sure your mics are on. That was a special pop for all of you out there in YouTube land. No additional charge for that.
And you actually kind of have to hold them relatively close. So-
Well, you don't have to hold them. The table can hold them.
Okay.
Okay.
I will give you the floor and then we'll respond.
Okay. Yeah, so as you guys know, there's this gravel pit that's in the town of Mancos that the county owns and purchased it, I believe, in '92, and it has a provision that the land is going to come back to the town in 10-acre increments upon being reclaimed and reseeded. And over the years, we've come to the understanding that there's something like 20 acres that'll never be used and something like 18 acres that are ready to come back now. And we met with the county in 2015, and we understood at that time that shortly after that we would start to receive some land back, and we have not yet received it. And so we met with, Heather and I met with Mr. Candelaria and staff in, I want to say, like 5 months ago?
Yes, I
we
think
came-
in January.
sometime in January. We had a really good meeting, and, I think we talked about what each other's needs are in terms of, town getting its land back after a reasonable time for the county to mine the property, which, and we, so basically, what we agreed to was 38 acres was going to come back to the town within a very short amount of time, and 22 acres was going to, which is the mineable land for gravel, was going to remain with the county for 10 years plus another 10 years, just to be super sure that they could make all of the economic use out of that gravel. So there was going to be 10 years and then a 10-year renewal. And, I talked about that with, that's what we understood the agreement to be, and that I should draft something up. I spoke with Mr. Baxter about it, and he's like, that sounds accurate. Send me a draft. And then we did send him a draft, and then we got comments back from the county, and basically took out all the timelines and took out any enforcement mechanism. And without that, we're basically right back where we are. We have an agreement from the 90s that had an implied, I think it requires the parties to work in good faith. We understood that the was going to be mined out within 10, 15 years from back then, and we would really like to agree to some timelines where the county gets everything it needs with respect to this land. We don't want to cut the county short, but we also want the county to perform its obligation to return the land to the town in 10-acre increments. And so that's why we're here to talk about that.
Anything else to add, Heather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now.
Well, first of all, I will go back to that January meeting when I read your, I think you called it an MOU.
Yes,
And I
sir.
talked about moving the gate, putting a fence around, all at the county's expenses. When we were there, we said, or I think I'm going to go back to remembering 6 months ago. To give those properties away, that was our biggest concern, was that if it's going to be more accessible to other people, that's what we did not want. We did delineate, I've sat down with Rob, we did delineate some acreage to the southeast and southwest that could probably be, set back. However, if those gates are moved back, which specifically it's just the one gate which is off of the access road. I don't think it's it's just an access road. Move it back to the property line, which is what your MOU stated, then that puts everybody basically into the mine site, which is what our concern was, and we did not want to do that at all.
Okay.
So that's number one.
Put
And
it
then
here.
we also stated that we had no interest in putting up a fence over 50 acres or even giving back that 20 acres, say, a fence over 30 acres. So, and I'm
Giving-
just kind of going by recalling it because I don't have that in front of me.
That's okay.
The MOU and/or notes of that meeting. So I'm going off the best I can. So if you guys hear me wrong, then we can go through it. So, so first of all, to move the gate back to the property line, which is I think what the MOU states, correct? That doesn't really work for us at all. And my question, go ahead, I see you pointing.
Well, I guess I'm curious. So the only issues we have with the draft are the gate and the fencing? Is that the
Oh, no.
only?
No,
Okay,
we
so
can
go
go
ahead,
through it.
go ahead
We can
then.
go through the whole thing.
Okay,
So the fencing is a big deal.
okay,
That's 30 acres of fencing to keep, which it calls for a security fence of 6 foot high and whatever else you want to do to it, which is not,
Okay.
it's not affordable. It's not attainable.
Mhm.
Moving the fence back, I guess what is the primary purpose of moving the gate from point A to point B as it stands right now?
I thought, if I was remembering correctly, and again, it was a while ago, I thought the reason that we talked about moving the gate was because there were issues with us accessing the rest of the property through that gate. Our staff has
Can you pull
been,
that shack up on our GS? That way we can actually
so
look
we
at it.
talked about moving it closer to the operation so that we could access the rest of the property without impacting the
Okay.
county.
So can you access it now?
Well, there was
You-
some discussion at the meeting where we met at the community center about staff, and your staff wasn't there, my staff wasn't there, so we were going on he said, she said. But our staff has been told that we're not allowed to access that. Our staff has been told they will be locked out. So I don't know.
So I can't answer to that. So I'm also
Exactly, and
gonna-
that was kind of
I'm
our
also gonna
issue in
bring
January.
Rob into our discussion. Rob, if you can find a,
So I believe, though, that's why we had talked about moving a gate closer, maybe not right onto it, but moving it closer so our staff can access the balance of our property without impacting your mining operations.
because the gate is kind of up at the top of the road, right?
Correct.
Off of the County Road 42 within
Yes.
a couple hundred yards?
Yeah.
Relatively
Yeah.
close.
And
Yeah.
the county just has a non-exclusive access easement. I think that's the issue. You know, they're gating off what they don't
So
necessarily
my
own.
understanding, and if I'm incorrect, is that you guys access it, the town of Mancos accesses it and can come in and get material at their, whenever they need it. Is that not correct, Rob?
That's great.
So they are accessing it for the purpose of gravel at any time. But now you're saying you can't access that, and my question is, why can you not access that piece of property at the same spot?
Well, and again, our staff, we didn't have staff there when we talked about this at the community center. What I'm hearing is that our staff is being told that we cannot access it. We are going to be locked out unless we call and get permission. We want to be able to access the north 20 acre, outside of the pit. Outside of the pit, we want to be able to access the north 20 acres and that type of thing. So it was my understanding, that was the reason that we talked about moving the gate closer to the operation so that we had access to the remainder of the property outside of the 50 acres.
So in the MOU, you're stating that you wanted the gate moved to the property line.
For your operations, yes,
That's what the MOU states,
correct.
which puts this very close to the mining operation. So my question is, the gate's about right here?
Uh-huh,
Or,
yeah.
so why can you not access this whole property from here?
Well, and that's my question, because your staff is saying that they're going to lock us out. So if we're going to share the gate, that's totally fine. But we don't want the town of Mancos staff to be locked out to access the north part of the property that we have care, custody, and control of.
Do we have any issue with that?
No, they're mixed up on gates. We had a gate up there to the property line, we removed it, but there used to be no gate there.
Here?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the only gate that I'm aware of right now
There's the one out by the road.
is the one right here.
And that will never be locked. Staff will never be locked out of that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh. The reason we got told that is because we were dumping garbage and bricks and junk up in the pit, and we were using it for purposes other than go up collecting gravel. So, there was an argument between a foreman and your foreman that said, look, if you keep it up, we're going to lock you out because DMRS does not allow small structures. That's the reason we got told that, not because of anything else. The access in and out of the gate is easy. If we all use the same gate, no big deal.
So here's my question. If they can access this, they can do whatever with their property.
Yeah, they're right, they do whatever they want, right?
Okay.
They can access it without going through the gate, I believe, there's plenty of room.
That's what I guess
North
that's
side of
my
the gate.
question is, I don't see us restricting the access for you guys to get to your property.
But we can move the gate down to our boundary if that would help, if that's a game changer.
That was a portion of the MOU that I didn't feel comfortable with when I read it. And
Okay.
because it gets people this closer, or this much closer, you really can't see this very well off to this road, so it's just another,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a place for people to hang out.
I think the gate works for all of us.
I was going to say, I don't imagine, and we've got, we're all here, so the board can weigh in. I don't imagine that where the gate is placed is an issue, as long as what I'm hearing is Town of Mancos staff will never be locked off the property.
And it's a right of way for all of us.
Obviously, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm
Yeah.
in the street, and I don't have an issue with the gate being left as it is, because you guys can access your property either through the gate and or right here,
Right,
either way.
okay.
So,
That was the,
The gate needs to be right there. Anybody in the world would be just driving in. If we move the gate,
then everybody drives on,
town's gonna need a gate there to keep
to put a gate there,
everybody
yeah.
else from going
I
in,
like
so.
the gate being left here, but
David, do you have any issue?
again, I still don't see how you don't have access to your property right here.
I don't know that it's an access issue. The problem is, and somebody wants to correct me. The problem is, what that is, it's a non-exclusive access easement is what the county has there. And I think the perception over the years has become it's the county's access to their pit.
I think we're talking to your, by to your, there's an access, there's a gate on our property now. If we said we took back a gate, we have to. But right now, we only have one gate, we took it out, we used it somewhere else, it's not even there, but if we had to put it in, we would do that.
Does that?
No. That's why I don't know that we,
I don't know that it matters if we're not
yeah.
being locked out.
as long as we're not locked out, I'm not.
Which I believe you all have a key for that gate, correct?
We do now, yes.
So they're not locked out.
They always have to keep it.
Okay, that's my understanding. So
You guys have been hauling gravel over there for 15 years now?
I understand that, but
Come and
we
go and
didn't
use
have a
all the orders.
conversation
We have a pretty good relationship, actually.
And somebody over there didn't have a conversation with Terry, telling them that they're gonna change the lock and lock us
Yeah,
out?
no, I'm for it. I just said why, too.
Okay, and that's not, okay.
Well, I think the thing to keep in mind is,
Not your gate. We would have put our gate back to work again on all down.
yeah, I don't think you
So
can lock
that's-
us off of our property is
No.
a big
So
issue or
that's where
threaten to
the-
do that.
That's, and I guess that,
If
that's
there's a
the
disagreement-
clarification. That's where that came from in the MOU.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The-
and
do
that's
you
the
know what I
good.
mean?
point was, that's what we're trying to say, not the overall property.
So
just
that's,
the-
that's where the gate came from at the property, is this, they'll lock us out of your property. That's where that gate came from. In the MOU, that's why the gate was mentioned. So,
I don't see the purpose of moving the gate. I think that's a cost for you and us.
Yeah, if there's a disagreement down the road, we'll just put our gate back in on the boundary line, and then they're here. And they've got access to their property.
That's fine. And again, don't have an issue with that, but I think that's where that came from. In the document, that's where that came from.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry,
that's okay.
I can't,
That's all right.
don't
Well,
have
and
my
I know
laser
we
with
talked
me.
about it, neither one of us had staff in the community center, so there was some of the.
Right, so
Yeah.
we did bring
Mhm.
our staff in, so I apologize if you should have brought in more staff or if they've
Oh, it's
already
okay.
communicated with all of you guys.
I communicated with staff in case we needed anything for today. Okay. So that one's
So they
solved.
have
Gate's
access to
good.
the gate to access any of your property there perfectly,
Mhm.
no issues.
Correct.
Okay, all right. You can go through, I don't have it in front of me, so, oh, now I do, sorry.
Okay, he's going over John's red line, it looks like.
Okay.
So which one do you want to go to next? So,
So
like I
just for
said,
clarification, this is John Baxter's edits to the document I sent to him. So this shows his suggested changes in kind of purple and strike through and add in is what John's changes were.
And I can hide edits or leave the edits up there, but if we have the edits up there, then we've got both of them up at the same time, and we can kind
Okay.
of see what's going on.
So I don't know what your other objections are, I guess.
well, the fence is out of the question, absolutely, which I think you had that. I don't know if that comes into the next piece or if it's down in a few paragraphs down below. And then I think his first objection was there was something to be in 2021.
2021, that sounds like when the 30 acres was going to come back. To the
And my
town,
question is, where did you get
the
the 30
32.
acres from?
Okay, there's 32,
It's
there's
13
13 acres that are ready to be reclaimed right now, and then there's another 15 acres that can't be used by the county. So that's a total of 28 acres.
Okay, and
So-
how did you arrive at those?
Those are the maps we talked about at the meeting, from our 2015 meeting with the prior commission, and then
Oh.
the maps that we talked about at the community center.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring this map down, because it's the same piece of property,
Okay?
because I don't agree with the 30 acres, I don't think that's realistic. So, it's the same acreage off the GIS map.
So, we were talking about down here originally,
Mhm.
this here, which is the steep area of incline,
Right. Can't be mined, I guess?
which we're not, no, we'll get this little portion here, see
Mhm.
this flat landing?
Yes.
That's where they've got some storage or stockpiles there.
Mhm.
So this can be mined all the way up into this area. However, this wooded area and then this strip where you can see.
Right.
And then it kind of comes back up to this wooded area and then this kind of,
Mhm.
basically squared off right here. Looking at the GIS map, that's about 10 and 10. It's 20 acres. And we can redraw it on the GIS map so you can actually see it, but it's going to be plus or minus an acre. So to say we had, in 2015, obviously, none of us were here, so I don't know where the 30 acres came from that we could give back.
Well, it was 15 unminable and
13 ready to be.
13 that were ready to be
This is-
reseeded and reclaimed. That was the, so I don't,
This is unliable, so I would agree with
yes.
that portion of that.
Mhm.
That's probably correct.
And the 13, I think, is what you guys had put in your plan in, it was going to go back, you'd filed an application, the
Right,
county
this
did, to
is-
go back to the state, but it wasn't, you hadn't taken care of the weeds, the noxious weeds, and so it couldn't go back. But you had sought to send back 13 acres out of your,
That's what we got our
That
numbers.
could be just.
Out of the mining
Be
plan.
drawn across and including the rest of it to that additional. But this is their money.
As
So,
long,
I guess what I'm still saying is that this 10, and it's, I don't have it drawn out, but I'm gonna say, we'll call it 10 and 10, Ross, would that sound? I mean, until we draw it out, it's probably 10 and 10, but the 30, it's not there.
well, it should be 24. Or 29, excuse me, is what, again, we've been talking about since 2015. So if we want to revisit, I guess, I'm not stuck on, and the board, I don't know that we're stuck on the specific number of acres so much as,
That's what you're going by this.
and that's what
You're
we,
saying 10 acres at a time.
and I understand what you're saying. This was drafted based on our conversation, so if,
That's correct.
that's where this came from. But in 2015, there was 13 acres ready to be returned, reseeded and returned, and I have the emails if we need to revisit those. And then in 2015, and unfortunately, I don't know what staff was at that meeting in 2015, but there were 22 unminable acres that were to be returned to the town. So that's where those numbers came from during our discussion, because they're in the
So
emails.
this 20 acres that I just kind of,
Mhm.
maybe could be confusing.
Yeah,
That may be
maybe it.
almost
Yes.
correct.
And the 13 acres, I think, came from, we got that off of your documentation off the website, so I
Correct,
don't.
but that's what I'm saying. This here is drawn, this 10 acres here
Mhm.
is drawn within that, so that number is incorrect.
So we're talking about basically from here all the way to
So
like
let me
here.
go map
You
this
know what
out
I'm saying?
with our GIS, and I'll have them print this and come back in with something that's a little easier for us to talk about.
Okay.
You wanna go around and make sure we're in the right spot? Is this hang tight? Okay. What else?
Yeah.
What's the next?
We're just waiting, I guess we need to hear your objections so that we can move forward on this
Okay.
and get this finalized.
Since we can agree to this, or we can agree to agree that we don't look at it, okay.
Yeah, that was a county thing, so,
I'm not sure where that came from, because I know that we didn't say that we wanted anything for us to apply. If there's no property down there.
yeah, and again, David, correct me from a liability standpoint, do we care if they don't fence off their property?
I don't know what's required for them, you know, their
As far as
mining is their, and their mining plan
permit
is
not our
their,
problem,
that's their
right?
business.
Okay.
You
So
know,
that would be up to you guys, whatever your mining permit requires would, there's never been a fence there. I don't know that you guys fencing the pit is a deal breaker if it's never been fenced until now. We're more concerned with starting to get the land reclaimed back to the town and
I
put
think the
a
biggest concern there would just
finite
be,
deadline.
are you guys gonna allow the public to come into that property, and is it gonna affect the current mining?
The public already uses it. There's already a practice
Well,
field
not
for
down
Little
here
League
on
up there.
this,
Like,
that we're gonna turn
on the
back,
north
they
side.
don't.
No, not on what you're gonna turn back. There's already one on the north side of the property. So that's the extent of what's happening there. So, I'm trying to find my airport property. And I don't know if, David, if you have, your emails
Okay,
that
so
I
we can get through that.
I'm not sure which one.
Which discusses the acreage. Okay, scroll down a little bit, Shaq, please. Okay, so, so 2021, I think the reason John probably put shall have to may have. I can't speak for
I
him.
wish John was here. We got too many people that were involved that are not here anymore, and
Well, that's okay. It's for us to make a decision now. So, and then with 10 years. So basically you're saying 10 years with a 10-year extension, and at that point in time has not fulfilled the obligation under state permit obligation to receive- So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying after the extension of the 10 years that you want it back, and if we don't have it reclaimed, that you will then pull it back, you will reclaim it, and then you will charge us for the reclamation. Is that how I
I
read
think
that?
can do that. Can do that is, but I mean, it's not the town's hope to do that. The town really just wants the land back.
Correct.
You know, and they want you to take your gravel and put it to economic use. The town wants to get its rent payment for the gravel, which the town appreciates, and that's a beneficial thing. It's free it's free gravel, essentially. But we want to establish timelines, drop dead dates. That was the main focus, as I recall, of our meeting.
So let me ask you a question, because I obviously was there at that conversation. With decrease in revenue, we're not going to put as much gravel on the roads as we typically have. Okay? So if we're not using that quantity, it's going to extend beyond 10 years. So say they're mining it, and I'm just being honest.
I know.
If you're not using the mine could sit there for 50 years and not be utilized. So I guess, obviously, we weren't part of a 1991 negotiation or discussion, and there was no real timelines put upon that at that point in time, correct?
Yeah, I think
Were
there
there in
was.
the
I don't
con-
know that they were put in the agreement, but I also think that all along, at least what the county's been submitting to the state, I
Yes.
believe it has deadlines in it. So the town's been relying on those applications to the state, because we look at them, they're public record, they
Sure.
relate to our interest.
For what's
We've been
reclaimed.
relying on those.
Right.
And that was,
1996, it was
In my opinion.
15-year timeline, is what they were telling the state. It would be, the pit would be done.
Correct. But you
in
also
15
know
years.
how a mine works, right? So
I-
that's a time frame put on your reserves if you're taking out whatever the quantity was that they used at that point in time. Say it was, I don't know, say it was 25,000 tons, I don't know.
Well, and.
Here- I
but
guess-
Respectfully, the whole point of us meeting at the community center
Mhm.
was to establish a drop dead date for this.
And so,
And
as I
so-
recall, you said 10 years, and we're like, we'll do 10 years, and you can redo it another 10 years.
Correct.
But we just want a date. We want a date where it automatically
But
comes
here-
back to town, because
Because
we
I
Yeah.
was at that meeting. Part of the problem is, we don't have a problem with you guys mining it, and maybe it does go 50 more years. It's getting what's back when you guys are done mining, then that land comes back to us. Because that hasn't happened. Since 1991, the county has not given any land back.
Correct.
It's
So
been-
I've got two more
But
maps here now to
it's
show
still
you.
been- I mean, it's been done, they're through mining that area, but they can't give it back to us because they haven't received it. We're just asking for you guys to do what they agreed to do, that they would give it back. We can let you guys have the gravel pit for 10 years, and then if you're not, if you're mining it, go another 10 years, then another 10 years, another 10 years.
But
It's
that's not
that we
what
want-
this says.
Yeah.
But this is what we agreed to at the meeting, was
Right.
10 years
Right.
plus 10 years
Plus
more.
10.
Things have actually changed since then too, so I don't know what John put in there, you can see what he put in there. So here's what Rob just drew out, which is what we were just talking about in comparison to that, which is basically 20 acres.
And I guess the negotiation, I'm not necessarily, that's what David and the board is for. My concern and my issue, to be very, very blunt, is we have now been talking about this for 6 years. Specifically, every single year, I have reached out to your staff. We met, boards, commissions met in 2015. I have reached out to your staff every single year since then. We have seen zero progress, even though we're made promises. So we met at the community center, agreed on some things that are extremely important to the town of Mancos, and yet we're here again, and now it's 10 acres less, and you want more time. And I apologize if I'm speaking
Well, in
outside of what the board wishes.
2015
What I want, very honestly, is for the county to put their money where their mouth is and hold up an agreement that you guys have made with us over and over and over and over. That's what I'm asking. Whatever that ultimately looks like, I'll let the attorneys or, whatever,
So,
but that's
again,
what I'm asking.
None of us here can discuss anything that happened in 2015. There was
Right.
an agreement that were made, none of you, maybe when you were there in 91 when the sale of the property actually took place, or maybe you were. So,
But your staff was here. I've dealt with Rob every single year since then. And every year I'm told, oh, we just have to reclaim the weed. Every year,
2015.
since 2015.
Probably.
Yeah.
However,
So,
to get through this, and here again, you've got to understand our part, as I said there, the reluctancy is we have a mind. And right now, my question is why this little 50-acre chunk out of the 200 acres is so critical to have a mine area to keep people away. I understand what you're saying.
And I
That's why
understand
I'm
what you're
drawing a
saying,
map.
and I guess-
However, we have a mine that was purchased with the agreement. Why they ever made the agreement that way, I don't know. You can't answer that, and neither can I. So, to get, this is well, some of it's in mine, as the picture shows, but it's only 20 acres, it's not 30 acres. I don't know where the 30 acres ever came from.
Came from you guys.
yeah, I was gonna say, that's the information that, and again, so whether it's 20 or 30, I guess my question would be, why is the county unwilling to meet the obligation that they set out in the original agreement, which was, when it's mined out, we'll reseed it and reclaim it, and turn it over to the town?
Well, this one is mine, this one is mine. So if there's a reason, then it has to be reclaimed at all, right? That 10 acres to this.
No, anything that's never been mined is okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, southeast.
And I guess that's kind of where we're at, and we talked about this at the community center, then why hasn't that in 2015, that was supposed to be turned back
We can't
over?
make that decision today, but we will tomorrow.
Right.
But we can discuss it today. You guys have any issues with it? No.
So that would be a good start, wouldn't it, to
And
get
that's
that
like,
20
yeah,
acres?
get like a good faith effort, a
And
good
it's not
faith
like
effort
we're
to
gonna go
see.
down and build houses on that acreage, because it's really not gonna be much use to anybody, because it is pretty steep. But it's just a good faith thing, that we're trying to get something back from the county that in 1991, they said they were gonna do, and none of us were there when this happened. But here we are, 30 years later, the town needs something to say that the county is actually owning up to their obligation. Then it's gonna make us more willing to go into other obligations with you.
And
It's just
I
showing the
understand,
name
and I
on
think-
everybody.
I think we all.
I mean, and we're not asking to, because we're not gonna go build, duplexes and things on that 10 acres.
We have
or
no plans
20
for it.
acres,
We
whatever
can't do
it is,
anything
I
with
mean,
it, so we have no
because it's really not using for anybody, it's
No, we
just
can't.
back to the town
We can't
where it
use it.
belongs.
Well, and we entered into the agreement, at least in the 90s, with the understanding that it was gonna be a 15 or 20-year project. That was
And
the.
it could have been at that point in time. However, like I asked you guys over there, I said, well, how much reserves was there? And nobody can answer the question, well, how do you know how long it's gonna take you to mine it if you don't know what your reserves are?
Right.
That's
Well, and it was a valid
That
question
was a guesstimate in the 90s that somebody made
that said,
off just winging it.
yeah. So I guess that's,
I have a question and a comment, and it seems to me like we're just spending a lot of time talking about the past, and it would be pretty easy to just say, okay, you have the authority, we have the authority to make an agreement, these boards, why can't we just say this is it and go forward? That's my comment. My question, I guess, is directed to you, who I don't know, Rob, is it? Whether it's 13 acres or what, is there any mined land that is ready to be reclaimed?
We've had, I know Heather doesn't believe this, but we seed it several times, we weed it every year. And we're finally just now starting to see some benefit from it. We've got records, Bonnie can provide lots of records of spraying it every year for weeds. We are getting very close now to having DMRS come in. We have to invite them to do an inspection. But you gotta be right, because if they come in and they go, you guys are crazy, they won't come back for 3 or 4 more years. Because they'll judge how long it takes for grass to grow, how long it takes to kill weeds. So we didn't want to pull that trigger and then get caught 3 or 4 more years down the road on another 3-year plan. That's just the way they think. So I told Bonnie, are you ready? She goes, I'm ready. And we got grass now. So we're ready to invite them in and give us an inspection to clear this mined area.
So
There is some progress going on.
There is some
We've got about
reclaimed area.
7, 8, 9
in
acres of,
addition to
right.
what you just showed on the map that has
No,
not been.
no. Part of what I shadowed out right there.
I thought you just showed the picture that said
This is part of the reclaimed area. So that has been mined. You see that this is stripped?
okay, so you're saying this
So
whole
this area
thing
here,
is about 20 acres.
it's 20.9 acres. This whole.
Including the reclaimed. Okay.
Yes.
So the
All right.
reclaimed area is this 10 acres here. So it's both looking at the map. Does that make sense to you guys?
It makes sense to me, it's just 29.9 instead of wherever the original figure came from.
Correct, and I'm not saying that, we don't have, obviously this is unminable to us. It's too steep, it's too whatever. And then this hasn't been done up.
No, none of the brown stuff has.
So any of this brown stuff may, whether we have good faith or not good faith, if they don't sign off on it,
Then it can't come
then
back.
we can't give it back. Unless the MOU says that then you'll take it back and then you'll just charge us to do whatever for the reclamation, is what that says, correct?
Yes.
Which I'm
No, I
not
don't-
able to agree to that.
No, I think that's what you guys,
That was-
you guys
yeah.
changed it so the town was gonna be obligated to reclaim your land if you didn't reclaim it. And it's like, well, why would we assume responsibility
No, this
for,
has been reclaimed. So the reclamation has been done on this, it has not been signed off. So if it gets signed off, which I'm showing you the same pages, you can see the acreage that's,
Yeah, whether it's 20 or 30, you know,
okay.
I don't know that anybody's
Well, I
guessed it. I think we just pulled information from 2015 forward. So if that's the correct acreage, I'm fine. I guess,
That's what it shows right now after the GIS just, because I don't know where the 30 acres ever came from. So I just
That was
wanna
before
clarify
us,
that.
2015.
That's not 30 acres.
and we can even, I mean, couldn't we even just say Appendix A and use a map instead of specific acreage in the MOU?
So I'm guessing we're at the point that we need to have them come in and see if they will release that
Are
7 or
we-
8 acres that's
Are
been
we at
mined.
that point?
Yeah, it's getting better. I mean, I don't want to sit there and say no, because it's not. It's getting a lot better than it was 5 years ago. But I don't want to go out on a limb here and say, oh, it's ready to go, and then they say no,
So I think what you're asking is just a portion of it. You don't necessarily, if that is actually not ready, then maybe just the portion on this side,
Well, and we
which
talked,
would be the
yes.
south
What we
east side.
talked about was immediately getting the unminable, getting that deeded back to the town.
Mhm.
That was one thing that we talked about at the community center. The second thing we talked about at the community center was the length of time it's taken, because that's been mined out since 2015. So we've talking about the amount of time it's taken to get it reseeded and weed-free. And ask the county to make that a priority, because I don't get 6 years from Bonnie when she sends me noxious weed information, so the county shouldn't get 6 years. We talked about that specifically.
It's,
At the community
I
center.
don't disagree with that. We're not saying that we have 6
So-
years to not take care of our weeds. We
Right.
have the same amount of time that anybody else does.
And
I would agree
I'm-
with that.
And we talked about,
But
those are
it's-
the emails that I'm receiving, and if there's a different reason for it not to be turned over to the town, I'm not aware of it. The information that I'm receiving from staff is that it's a weed issue, so the state won't sign off on it. So we had talked about making it a priority to get rid of the weeds, so so the state will sign off on it.
Weeds and establish the grass. The grass has to be
Right,
established.
I think the other thing is not necessarily the weeds so much, but it's more the established grass, the reclamation part of it, because that's what they want to see.
And I guess what we had talked about and what I'd asked was, does it take 6 years for that? Why has it taken 6 years for that? You weren't aware, I didn't know,
Well,
staff wasn't there, so we couldn't ask them.
I don't know. The only thing that I would say right now is that it's hard to get grass up there to grow without any water. Obviously, we've been some very dry years, so I don't know what has or what hasn't grown.
We've got more acreage at Hay Camp that's taken longer than this, and it still isn't established. It just takes time, and this drought is not helping, and I'm not lying. It takes time. And to get it to their standards, maybe this is the year. Maybe we'll get it done this year, because it is getting better. There's a lot of grass in it now. So we're ready to at least invite them now. I wasn't last year or the last 2 years, so.
Well, anyway, so that was part of our discussion at the community center
Okay.
was, again, so I would like an understanding that the state needs to sign off on it. We're all aware of that.
Mhm.
But what we wanted was a deadline or something that would make it or keep it on the county staff's radar to say, this is a priority. We have until this time to get this weed-free and reseeded and reclaimed.
The
So that, again, we're
weed-free,
not
the
6
weed-free
years
is
from now.
pretty easy. We can take care of the weeds. We have our own weed department, so I'm not gonna use that as an excuse. However, the reclamation part of it, of the established grass, that's a lot more difficult. And to give a time frame on that, I mean, can any of us grow grass without water?
Well, and again, I hear what you're saying, but this was drafted based on our agreement
Right.
at the community center.
And it was
So-
snowing on us that day that we were there.
It was.
Those things were looking good.
But we agreed then that would be a priority, knowing how,
Right.
that
I
the town
think
wants this to be a priority and returned back,
Mhm.
we agreed that it would be a priority.
I mean, is there water for this that you need that you actually apply? to
No.
the-
No, only what
There's no
comes out
water
of
up
the
there.
sky.
What I remember seeing from the state records was that the issue was not the reseeding, it was the noxious weeds that were there. That's why they rejected it. And, I mean, I think you can reseed it, but if you're not applying water, those seeds are probably gonna die, you know,
And-
so it's.
and That's a difficult part. That's what I'm saying. I'm not making an excuse for noxious weeds. We can take care of the noxious weeds. There's no excuse for that. I think we'll all agree up here that we'll take care of that. However, to establish the grass within that reclamation, and I haven't read that report, so if it's not established to their criteria, then it's gonna be tough to say.
So is that the mining reclamation that it has to have the grass back? Or can it just be the weeds gone and you guys then deed it back to the town, the land, without the grass?
No, that's the state
The
standard.
state, you have to reclamation, yes.
State part of,
You know, it's not necessarily just giving the land back, you know?
Well, I think,
correct, but it also says in the original agreement that it has to be reclaimed and put back or signed off by the DR, what is it?
Well, and
DR
that's why
10?
we left
Yeah,
it.
Division of
like,
Mining Reclamation.
in the draft. It just said, here's what you're gonna do, and then we left it, must be accomplished on or before, but left it blank. Something that we're
Okay.
assuming your staff needs to fill in to say when they could.
so why don't we just see if we can get them to release that 7 acres that's already been mined? If they release it, fine. If they don't, it may be 3 years before we can release it or have them come back and do it again. But at least we can release the non-mineable stuff back to you, and maybe that piece if they'll go ahead and release the reclamation on it.
And that's kind of and that's what we had talked about in January, was just making sure the county understands that that needs to be a priority. That reclamation, the weed remediation, the reseeding, that it needs to be a priority so that that can be returned back to the town.
We can
That
either,
was the
we can have them look at it, if they'll sign off on it, we can give you back 20 acres or something. If not, we can give you back the 10 or 12 acres of non-mineable stuff at this time, and then wait to see when we can get it cleaned up. It's not that hard of a deal, I don't think.
But the timeframes in there are a hard deal.
Once we fill in the dates, yes, they're a hard
That
date.
once the date, I guess that's
The
my
dates are
point
still not
is,
in here.
I don't have an issue with that, but when they're sticking to a hard date, then that's the issue.
Well,
What
I'm
if
just
we
working
decide
on,
to
I'm
not-
just working on getting the 20 acres back to them, not any timeline on the rest of it at this time.
But these are timelines.
Well, but
I would be really careful about putting timelines in. I mean, I think we all understand the direction that we're going, and trying to get this back. But when we start putting timelines in, we've got state approval that we need to have, and the
that's-
grass is
that's
out of
my
our
concern.
control. Certainly it seems like we all understand the same thing at this point. But ultimately, when we start putting hard, fast timelines in, that's a dangerous thing to do.
Well, then that basically says we have to have it mined out and reclaimed in 10 plus an extension of 10,
correct.
correct?
Mhm.
Which is 20 years.
Mhm.
Which is my concern is what if we don't pull anything out of that pit for 10 years? Then we're stuck under it that we actually have to.
I understand that, but
So-
Jim, you agreed to that in the meeting verbally. It was your suggestion.
I'm not saying that we didn't talk about it, but things have actually changed. So, I mean, if you guys want to put, I don't think
You
that-
can put a clause in there that says it can be renegotiated at X years.
They
That
don't
would
want
be
that. This
fine,
is what
too.
we're doing right now is
The-
talking about the time frame.
And again, from the town's point of view, we had this exact same conversation with your predecessors in 2015. That's why we want a timeline. So that 6 years from now, when you're all term limited, we're not sitting here again saying, oh, well, there's nothing we can do because we weren't there at the time. That's the problem that the town has.
I think it just needs to be maybe discussed on your priority, and maybe we discuss this once a year to find out where we all stand on it. And the good faith is because 1991, we've gotten nothing. We've gotten our gravel, yes, but we've not gotten any of the land. Now you guys are talking about giving the land, the non-mineable, the non-mineable land should have been given back several years ago, and we
And-
got nothing.
And I
That's not your
don't
fault.
disagree with Joe that we can
But-
look
but
at this
now, I
20
mean,
acres to,
Not necessarily putting in the hard fact, but we need to put in something where we know in maybe 2 years, we come back and have a discussion and a renegotiation on this, because none of us may be here in 2 years even,
sure.
so we don't know what's gonna happen. But
So
we can't
back
just
to the
not
original
do
contract, there were no dates as far as when it would be given back.
Yes, it was a
To the
missing
very
term.
original contract.
It was a missing term in the in that agreement. And so, what we're trying to do is fill in that missing term. I mean, the options are we can agree to it, or an independent third party, puts that term in there. That's what we're trying to avoid, is having somebody else put that in there. We're trying to say, what does it, we want you to get every use of it you can, but it also has to come back to us. And so we're trying to reach an agreement with you on what that term should be.
Well, and I don't, with all due respect, I don't know that it's necessarily a missing term. The agreement was what it was, and it was that we were going to be able to mine that as long as we were mining it. And there was no term in there because frankly, when it comes to mining operations, they can go on for a while. I mean, Jim, you talked about it earlier. Sometimes we extract the stuff slowly. And so I'm not sure that that's a missing term. I think the agreement was what it was. And I mean, certainly I wasn't there. You guys weren't there. But the contract's pretty clear and there's no term. It wasn't that it was somehow left out
Correct.
unintentionally. It
So-
wasn't there.
The reason we need to put a term on it is because the original contract said, in good faith, when it was mined out, the county would reclaim it and return it to the town.
But
And that we have not received 1 acre since 1991. So that's why we are here today, why
Okay.
we met in 2015, and they were supposed to, at that time, return the non-mineable land.
So-
It never happened. That's why we're here right now.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, there was no term in the original agreement,
Correct.
and so I'm just saying that at this point, we don't have to put a term in there, and I would be cautious about putting terms in there because, quite frankly, we don't know how long it's going to take for this land to get mined out, and we don't want to bind ourselves to something when later on then we're going to have to still have stuff to mine, and we can't do it because we've got a term.
So you're not even recommending that they turn back to the town the non-mineable and the already mined out?
No, I
land?
think that's absolutely fine. I don't see any problem with returning the non-mineable stuff and then assuming the state can check off on it. That makes sense.
Correct, and I
I'm not
think-
debating that. I'm talking about the other pieces
the
that are
other
in
term
here.
for the length of time. I'm
What you
saying
could
if it
safely do
takes-
is put a term in there for renegotiating it, and you could put a term in there for updates.
That
Of
even
here's
that
where
would
we
be
are.
better. We're here because.
So I think we can realistically say if this is signed off, realistically, if we call them back this year, that I'm gonna just say 20 acres, plus or minus, has the potential of being deeded back.
How is that any different than what it is right
It's,
now?
that's,
I guess I'm
that's what
asking the
we're-
legal mind, how is that any different than what the contract
that's all
says
you're,
right this
it's
second?
not. That's what you're asking for. We're saying in good faith, if this is reclaimed or if they're signed off, that it can be deeded back.
So we don't
In
need to
good
change,
faith?
what you're saying is you don't want to change the existing agreement at all? Because that's what the existing agreement says.
Correct, because I think what Ian is saying is that if we put a timeline in here, then we're actually, we're sticking ourselves to the term of 10 years or 10 plus 10.
There might be 50 years worth of gravel in there.
Okay,
Because
so
we
I
don't-
guess,
I don't know
what I want
what-
to do is, I'm asking to clarify, we had a discussion and a
Mhm.
verbal agreement. And what I'm hearing right now.
Do you remember I asked how much reserves was left in there?
Mhm.
And
Which
I
is why-
still
and
don't
you said
know.
probably 10 or 15 years, so we said, well, fine. put
At the
another
rate,
extension
at
on.
the rate that it was being mined at. If the rate, like I just said, if the rate of mining decreases, so if we don't mine
I understand what you're
50,000,
saying, Jim. I understand what you're
it
saying.
goes on.
My question to you is the commission right now willing to, in any way, shape, or form, amend the existing agreement?
I don't,
That's really a question for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, it's not a legal question. I mean, we certainly can amend the existing agreement. I think that there are problems with amending the existing agreement, and that conceivably we're going to start binding ourselves to terms that might affect this mining down the road, and I think that's important to understand.
well, it's just the mining, it's the reclamation with it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you're saying that 10 years would be deeded back after it's reclaimed. And what if it takes 10 years to reclaim it? That's my concern, Heather, and I'm not,
Well, and
I understand your side,
hear
and
what you're
I can
saying.
appreciate it, but how long are we gonna be in this drought that we've already been in? And I'll get to you in just a minute, ma'am. But what if we really can't get signed off, and it takes 7 years for the reclamation part of it? So
So,
The
and
hard-
again, I just wanted to clarify, everything that we discussed at the community center is off the table? You're saying right now, is what I'm hearing, not to amend the agreement. Everything that we talked about at the community center was a drop dead date that we agreed to.
I think he
So
said
you're
that
not
that's
willing
really,
to put those drop dead dates in an
that's up
amended
to us.
agreement?
It's not.
Yeah, I wasn't present for those discussions. I don't know.
understand
I don't
that,
know
and
what
that's why
happens,
I'm
but
asking Jim, because
Yeah.
Jim was
And
present.
neither-
I was the
Neither was
only
I.
one that was there. Shaq and I were the only two that were there of
And
this
John
board
was
now.
And John
John's
Baxter.
not
Your
here
previous
either.
council was
So,
there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I still am unclear. I mean, I know you're getting advice from your attorney not to put a timeline in, but why couldn't we, I mean, the original 10 years plus 10, another 10 was based on, I guess, what you thought might be in there in terms of,
It was based on what
on
they're
gravel to
mining
mine
per current
at
year
that
now.
time.
Yeah,
And
at that
then
time.
Why couldn't we though pick like a 10-year plus 10-year or 20 years or whatever it is, but put a date in there and then use Shaq's suggestion that, at that point, it could trigger a renegotiation if things had changed. Just like you're saying now, you've slowed down on using gravel, so things have changed from what you said even 6 months ago.
And they have.
That's what I agree, I
So-
understand what you're saying, so why?
So rather than putting in a date for giving pieces back, you could agree to a date for updates
Yes,
between the boards.
Is
And
that reasonable? Because that's not what this MOU says.
Yes,
This
and
For
the
just an
lawyer
update?
wrote this MOU.
I was just gonna say, the MOU was drafted based on our discussion, so if the
Right.
discussion
And
is
your lawyer
changing,
was very
that's fine.
involved in writing this MOU.
So, but his changes came back all in red, correct? These were all John's changes?
That's right. Yeah,
So-
I have not
Yeah,
tweaked
John
this.
did. And I guess that's, so we can do whatever the board and the commission want to do. The reason we're here again today, and I feel like I'm belaboring the point, is we were promised something in 2015, it didn't happen. We were promised something 6-8 months ago, hasn't happened. So we can meet as often as everybody wants to receive verbal promises. If there's no enforcement behind it.
Well, we can't make
I
a
need my-
decision today, Heather, but we can make a decision
understand that,
tomorrow.
But I need my board to understand that
And
if we're
that-
not putting any enforcement in writing, the original agreement as it was stands. Because we left our meeting and said, we're renegotiating a new agreement. If that's not gonna happen, they need to be aware of that.
And Jim,
So-
I think one of the biggest things that I'm concerned about is you keep saying, if they sign off on that, on the reclamation, then we'll give you back 20 acres. Give us back the non-mineable right now. Don't wait for them, because you can't use it anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not
So,
what you said.
well,
You just
okay,
said the
let me
20
back up.
acres, the 20 acres. Forget about the 20 acres. Forget about the part that needs to be reclaimed. Give us back some land. Do a good faith. Because right now, we have no faith in you guys. Not you guys,
and
the
I'm
commission
okay with that,
whatsoever.
but it's not, it may not equal the 10 acres
Doesn't
at
matter.
all.
Give us back what can be given back. Quit worrying about the 20.9 of the GPS, because we don't know what the state's gonna say, yes, you can reclaim it, or what you can't. But give us back something, because you guys have done, and when I say you guys, the commission has done nothing since 1991.
Correct,
Do
and we can
something.
only, these guys can answer for, well, I can answer for 2 years, and this, it came to us last year when we had our, I'm sorry, the beginning of this year. So 6 months ago, 7 months ago.
But
I
that
can
was said
speak for that, but I
they
can't
said that
speak
would
for
be done
anything in the
immediately.
past.
And that was 8 months ago, we haven't seen anything. Okay?
Okay. I understand where you're coming from.
Our frustration is here. And this isn't directed at you guys, it's not directed at our board.
No, we're not,
Because,
there's nothing
Something
personal,
has
nothing's
to be
being
done.
taken personal.
It
You're
just-
reading a contract and so are we.
right,
And the way the contract reads, just as Ian just explained, there was no time frame in the beginning. It just said in good faith that we would eventually do something.
the good faith has gone
So-
by the side.
Yeah, there's
That,
some good faith
I
done.
get it. So, again, I didn't, none of us in this room drafted that contract. None of us signed that contract. It's just up to interpretation, as what the attorney stated. Or we can have a third party.
So what the board can agree to is, like she said, give back the unmineable portion. You guys can make that decision
We
tomorrow.
can,
And we can call the state for an inspection.
correct. And we just drew it out and said that that is a potential, that it
Yeah,
could
that's up
be
to the state.
plus or minus, it could be possibly 20 acres. If not that, then the unmineable grass, or not grass, the wooded area, treed area.
Jimmy, I want to make sure, though, the DMRS will release the unmineable. It might be one package. Let me make sure of that before we commit to the unmineable. And it very well could be available, but let me double check the DMRS on their package deal there.
So that we can get them an answer in a reasonable time. We'll
Yeah,
have to,
I would, I just don't want to say, yeah, you can have 5 acres of trees back. It might be tied up in a contract with DMRS, so let me double check that.
I got a telephone number for somebody you can call. The guy's name is Lucas West, 303-866.
We know Lucas.
Okay, that's the guy, and I mean, he can tell you right now, I think
Yeah.
his answer is yes.
I'll
You know,
check
if it
with him
hasn't been
tomorrow and see
disturbed.
what he says. So,
Go ahead with the last 4 digits. What was it?
303-866-3567, extension 8187.
And it shouldn't have changed. I would imagine it hasn't changed, because in 2015, you guys could have returned the unmineable. We researched it then.
And then
Lucas,
there's a new guy, their new inspector's name is Dusty Zapla in Grand Junction. 303-866-3567, extension 8188.
Could you say that number one more time? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Yes, 303-866-3567, extension 8188. Dustin Zapla. Yeah, the big thing in 16 was, it wasn't, was the weeds. They didn't mention the reclamation, and as I understand the reclamation law, that planting's not necessarily always required. If there's chemical or physical characteristics of the surface and immediately underlying material of the affected land that's incompatible with plant growth, deficient in nutrients, or composed of sand, gravel, shale, or stone, such they would inhibit plant growth, then you don't have to do the reclamation. It's if you can do it, then you're supposed to do the, not the reclamation, the reseeding. If you can do the reseeding, then you're supposed to.
So again, I haven't talked to either one of these guys, I don't know. But that's fair enough, I've got both of the numbers.
Well, I think we can figure out something by tomorrow on the unmineable stuff
Yeah, that's,
and make a decision tomorrow at the meeting. Have the reclamation get a hold of them, find out about the other remaining 10 to 13 acres, if they'll release that.
so did you write this MOU or did John? You're saying that John wrote
The first draft came from
it?
me, and then this is John's edits.
So the original is from David, the red line is John's.
Correct.
Well, I would say we should work on getting what we can back to you, and then we all sit
Which-
down again and hash out what's left of the deal.
Okay, when do you want to meet again?
Well, we can make this decision for the unmineable tomorrow.
Well, unless, as Rob said, unless it somehow is a
Yeah, but-
package deal.
But you can get the information on that
2:30, when we
today.
get the information. I would imagine by tomorrow afternoon, 24 hours, they're gonna be able to
Well,
tell us.
we want to wait to see if we can get the other of it turned back to them, and
I
then we
think
sit
they're
down and
saying
meet.
that if the unmineable, whatever that is what you're saying, right, Queenie? That we do that right away, and if the other,
Passes
whatever
the
acreage is,
inspection.
then it could equal up to 20 acres within, if we pass the
state
inspection.
approves it.
However,
So-
the
So after
unmineable,
the inspection, we.
If
all
the
sit down again
unmineable, if the unmineable can be deeded back, which we can know within 24 hours, Ian, how long would it take you to write the quitclaim?
I can have it done within the week for sure, by a week from tomorrow for the quitclaim deed. Yeah. If we make that decision tomorrow, and then we could sign off on the deed the following week.
And then do you guys want to check back in a quarter, in 6 months, or in 1 year? Those are your three options.
Why don't I follow up with Rob and copy? Usually I follow up with Rhodes and copy county administrator, whoever that is. Why don't I do that in a couple of months and see if and when this appointment is scheduled for DMRS? Because we're kind of waiting. You know, we need to wait and see when your appointment is, when the,
Right.
yeah, that's,
when that's gonna be done. Why don't I just calendar it for 2 months and follow up via email to say, hey, have they scheduled an appointment to come down? What's the site visit status on that? And then once we hear from the state, that would be what will trigger the next step. If the state approves it, then we'll follow up on how and when that's gonna be turned back to the town. If the state doesn't approve it, we'll have to figure out a game plan to move forward at that point. So I'll follow up in
2
2
months.
months. I don't know how long it takes for DMRS to schedule a site visit,
so
make
the
a
1st of
decision.
October.
Yeah,
Well-
that's what I'm thinking.
In normal circumstances, yes. However, DMRS is part of the state, and the state wouldn't even do a landfill inspection for us because of COVID.
Because of COVID.
And now Delta variant. So, under normal circumstances, yes. However,
I'll follow up December 1, how about that? And if something happens in the meantime, there's movement on those
I
acres in
would
the
say
meantime,
keep
let me
it,
know.
keep
but-
it October.
Yeah.
If they actually do get something done because of it, they do.
Yeah.
And if not, then it's gonna be, we're all gonna know about, if it's a Delta variant or whatever, we're all gonna be knowing about that anyway.
Yeah.
So
And if
don't push
something
it out
happens
any
before
longer,
then, just-
keep it at October, and we'll go for October to December.
Discussion again always another +10. We can always add that +10 on if things aren't moving. You know, we're not wanting to kick you guys out of there because we want the gravel too, but we just need something in writing that says we're going to talk about it every 5 years or every 10 years, not the question mark, the indefinite. You know, we gotta have something in there. Maybe it's gonna take us 50 years to get this done. Maybe it's gonna take us 100, but at least put it in there, a time limit that we're gonna sit down and have a discussion that, okay, we're not moving, we haven't done any mining in 5 years. And we're not planning on doing any mining in 5 years, so then maybe at that time we can all agree that, okay, in 15 years, something has to be done or it's gonna come back to the town, or something, you know, but there's gotta be something, some date, sometime, somewhere, that we sit down and have this discussion, that we're not just having all these question marks. And that's what I would just say, is put the 10 plus a 10 of a renewable, that there is the renewable clause in there. Because you may not be here in 5 years, you may not be here in 10 years. I probably won't be. But put something in there that the people under us have something to work with. Because we haven't had anything. And that's all I'm asking.
And I think that goes back to the original contract, because every commission change, or every 4 years, or every 6 years, or every 8 years,
Right?
it's brand new. So if it wasn't followed up on, they might have noticed it or they might not have noticed it.
So I'm just
So I
asking
understand
on
your
both sides
point.
that there be
In
something
the last
there.
6 years or 7 years, Heather, since 2015, it has been, it has been on the radar. Prior to that, I don't know if it was or if it wasn't. Because at the original contract, it just says there was no time frame on it.
Well, and because there was
So-
no time frame on there, I will tell you, because I was on the board, 16 years ago. is-
And so is Lindsay.
But it would come up and they'd say, well, there's no time limit. There's nothing on there, there's nothing we can do. And I'm just asking for the people under me and coming in behind me, that there be something there that somebody has to answer to. Not just this, well, there's no timeline. We don't have to do anything. That's all I'm asking. Put it there where we have to have a discussion and something has to be done. Whether they extend it or they drop it. But that, because it's not fair. It's not fair to you guys, it's not fair to the people coming in after you, and it's not fair to people coming in after me on the board. It's not fair to Rob and his guys, they don't know. You know,
You're correct.
so I'm
There
just.
again, like I said, I didn't write the agreement in the
No, none of
90s.
us did.
None of us were around, and it's to interpretation.
Right. But, you know, I saw, I can't shake and he said yes. There just needs to be something where people can be accountable, all of us, somewhere down the line.
So check back in 2 months in
Let's
October.
work on
Don't wait
getting
till
you that
December,
back,
and
then
we'll work
sit
on
down and-
the unminable, which is basically what I've shown you on the diagram. If we can get something scheduled within whenever, then hopefully we can look at the other blue-lined area, which is what I showed you here.
Then may I respectfully request that we have another joint workshop? Because
Sure.
we did meet and set a timeline. So I would like a joint workshop, if you all don't mind, so that everybody in the room is hearing the same thing.
Yeah.
So that we're not here 8 months later from now with me saying, but we agreed to this, telling my board, we agreed to this, and now we're back at square one, where we were prior to 2015. So I would like to respectfully request another joint workshop where all the parties are in the room hearing the same thing.
We could do that October 4th. That's the first week in October.
Yeah, let them pick a date. October
'Cause
is
I
good,
went-
or December is good,
Yeah.
whatever you want to choose.
Which
'Cause
one?
I'm in a tough position. I went back to my board and said, we negotiated a 10-year term with a 10-year renewal. So that's why they're here, to hear that that's not
And I will
exactly
say,
what's
Heather,
happening.
we did say that. I'm not going to not say that that was not said. However, things have changed. That was stated, and I'm being very honest. I
And
still
I
don't
hear
know
you.
how
I
much
do.
reserve is there, and I cannot tell you if we decrease the mining operation that it is going to extend. And that's just being very open and upfront.
And I absolutely, and again, I don't disagree with you. I understand, I'm very aware the state needs to approve this, we mine at these rates. I understand all of that. I guess my frustration level is, we agreed to a term, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, or 25 years, we agreed to put some deadline in there, whatever that may be.
And I think we said.
And now we're back
10
to
years
zero
with a
deadline.
chance.
That's my frustration.
We did put in 10 years, but we also put in the clause that at the end of that 10 years or in 9 years, we could extend it. It's not drop dead, that it's done, we did talk about extending it in the 10 years.
And I
And
think
we
that's our
know that-
frustration, is we
Right.
talked about some type of deadline. Now we're back to no deadline, we'll talk about it later.
Does this not say 10 years plus 10 years and then it's done with?
You can negotiate the timeline, Jim, you know that.
Okay.
If you guys want
But-
10 years or 15 years, but now your new council is saying, oh, don't put a deadline on there. So now we're back to no deadline, no change to the original agreement, but we'll meet again every couple of months to talk about it.
No, I think that we're going to make a good faith effort to give you back that, or deed it back, I guess we're not.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I mean, I wasn't present for the
I
prior
totally
agreements,
understand.
and I'm
I'm
not
not
saying
blaming
don't
you
put a
either.
deadline in. I'm saying you don't have to. I mean, so I think
Correct.
I think that's an important thing to understand. It's your guys' choice. It's
Yeah.
your option. I don't know what was agreed to or what wasn't agreed to, but you don't have to put a deadline in. And ultimately, like I said, the deadline will come back and bind us. So it's in your guys' court. I'm not making a recommendation either way. You just have to understand
But I'm
what your options
I'm
are.
gonna come back and say, John said, let's put a deadline in there for the towns, and they have something. And John Green, and you weren't there, I know, but John did say, let's put the deadline in there with the clause that 10 years plus 10, so we can renegotiate it, but put something in there so we have something to go on.
Yeah, I don't care if it's
You know,
50 years. I mean, I
but
don't
put
care whether it's
something in
10
there.
or 10. That
And
is
that was
totally
John's
negotiable.
idea, and I will say that, and now he's changed it in there. But at that meeting, Jim, you can.
Yeah, but
he
these are
said-
John's changes,
I
not
know,
mine.
but
I
he's the
didn't
one
touch
who said
these.
At that meeting, that agreement was that, let's put a date in there to give these guys some good faith.
I just said that. I
Right,
said
the
that was
changes.
said.
Right.
I agree, that was stated.
said. And now we're back to nothing, and I'm just saying, put the 10 years in there that can be renegotiated for another 10 years, or another 15 years, or another 20 years, but put something in there. Because right now, and I'm like Heather, our frustration is beyond, because we've had these meetings, and we're getting nowhere, and as you guys said, we'll see what we can do, but now we're hearing, okay, well, we'll give you back that line, but we have to see what the MSR or whatever they are, the mining thing. We are just getting put off and put off and put off and put off, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I'm sorry.
It's nothing personal. We get
It
it.
isn't.
It's,
but
we
it just-
totally
Well,
understand.
we can sit down when we get this other given back and we can work something out, I think. I don't think that's a problem. If it's a 10-year deal and it automatically renews 10 years, then it automatically renews 10 years until the gravel's gone,
And I think it needs to be.
There could be some way,
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be. a
so that it
negotiation.
automatically renews no matter what, as long as there's gravel there.
As long as there's gravel there, we don't care. I mean, as long as keep mining it, as long as there's gravel there, keep gravel there. There has to be then, if we're uncomfortable with 10 years and 10 years, fine. But there has to be some type of language that says it will be, and something better than in good faith, that it will be negotiated, because
I wish I could talk to those people that signed that contract to see what they were thinking. However,
Well,
now it's up
and
to
I-
us.
I wish Ed
I
was
know
here
what they
because
were
his
thinking,
name's on
because I
it. We
have a
could-
file.
can get a little bit of an insight
I
from
have a
Ed.
file with notes from the original.
Yeah,
And
so
it's-
it doesn't
you know what
matter.
I'm saying? So I know
We'll-
what they were thinking. They were basing it based on, we estimate, here's the state permit, it says there's this many years of gravel. You know what I'm saying? So I know what they were thinking, but we need to, anyway, I agree with Queenie. I know you guys don't want to be held to it, and if we have to have another meeting, we have to have another meeting. But I think in order to be fair and transparent, at least on my part as the town administrator, I'm going to continue to request some type of deadline or action or something on the county's part, because trusting you, not you personally, but you as the commissioners as a whole, whoever is sitting in your chair from 91 until now, to honor this in good faith has not worked out for the town of Mancos. We need something else. We need something else. And like I said, after everything is turned back that can be turned back, maybe it'll buy everybody some breathing room. But like Queenie, my frustration is at an all-time high. I've dealt with this every single year for 6 years. Thought it was handled, or at least saw some light at the end of the tunnel. And today I'm told, sorry, we're still not sure. We haven't researched if we can turn it back. We haven't researched, we don't want a deadline. That's my frustration level. So if we want to meet again on October 4th or December or whatever to talk, again, in order to be fair, frustration level's not going down on this project, it's going up on this project.
Sure.
When we
So,
left that meeting, you were gonna have Rob call
yeah,
and see if it could be given back to us. And here we are, and now he's gotta call again. You see where we're coming from? We're not getting anything, and things have changed, and things are gonna change. And 20 years ago, your handshake and your word really meant something. Today, it doesn't mean shit. But we all
No,
know that.
I do think it did mean something back then, and I think that
It did
they,
back then, but it doesn't mean, things have changed. And so we, as our board, have to answer to our people. And we're just asking the commissioners to answer to us so we can answer
Correct.
to our people. And when we left that meeting, you said, we'll get a hold of Rob, we'll have him call the state, we'll get him up there, see what we need to do. Because we were promised that this would be given back to us. That was 8 months ago, and nothing. And here we are, right back.
this came from John how long ago? The edits?
Well,
Or-
the edits were about 4 weeks ago. The original came from David, I don't know, 8 weeks ago?
June 4th.
So
Actually,
it was
yeah.
5 months waiting on the attorneys, Queenie. So don't get frustrated at me for that.
I'm
They,
not.
they have a time frame that they have to work within too, and we're not questioning that.
But
Then our attorney, then we've been dealing with a lot other things with attorneys also. So I'm not saying that, don't just say that 8 months we have sat around and done nothing.
No, I'm not saying
We have
that,
talked
but-
about this several times. I've had discussions with Rob to outline this. That's how we have these pictures. So
But the phone
I'm
call
just
could have been
saying-
made to him to have him come down. Why do we now have to wait another 2 months for him to come down?
I don't know that if we have to wait 2 months. I can't answer that
Who
question.
was the call made? That was my.
I will say, by me, no.
Okay. That's just-
absolutely not.
I mean, that's just.
The
where
call
we're
will be
at.
made today by me. I
Well,
will tell you that, and I will do that.
I can tell you right now, Commissioner, he's not in his office. We've sent an email. He's out of his office, and we'll hope to hear from him tomorrow.
I still can make the call and
Well, you
leave a
can make the call, and
voicemail.
yeah, we tried.
However, that's what I'll say I'll do, and I will do that. Now, whether I get a response or not, I cannot
I understand,
say.
but-
Just like I can't tell that it'll take 5 months to write an MOU. Can I?
No,
Okay.
but we just need.
So that will be done. If it extends another 8 months, I can't move other people around. Why does it take 5 months to write an MOU?
Because everybody's busy.
And why, exactly.
So,
So point taken. So let's get on with it. Let's follow back up on the October, correct? Is that what we stated?
That's what
October
I've got.
4th? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put it on my calendar. $1:30 again?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see where we are.
I will be right here waiting for you.
All right, so October 4th, I will remind you all and post it as a public meeting. See
And
if
we
we
will
get
make a
anywhere.
decision tomorrow based on the unminable ground, which would be the trees, basically
If you hear
the
that it's
southwest,
not involved,
southeast corner.
if it's not included in, if you hear back that it's not included.
Correct. But we'll see how Dusty or Lucas respond.
All right, thanks for hearing from us, appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you
guys
for
for
the
coming.
too, very nice.
And I'll keep you updated between now and then too at your regular meetings on what's going on.
So Rob, you want to talk to us about Chicken Creek since you're here?
Fred,
And,
take another donut with you.
John did say that in 2010, and I wasn't heard that. But now looking at what's happened, what if we can't find? Hold on, sorry.
We're actually stupid to mine it. We should get out of there and leave it alone for about 10 more years, because when we run out of the other 3 pits, we still have one. So actually going in there and mining it, just shooting ourselves in the foot down the road. So that's the truth. You know, give them back 10 acres and shut the pit down for 10 years and mine out Hay Camp, mine out Ormiston, and mine out BLM down in the canyon, and then we got something if we don't get another pit. But I'm gonna retire in 2 years, and I'd like to have a pit for the next guy to step into, and that is our pit. We own that pit. If they build a house or they do something up there and they go, that's it, we don't want no noise. We don't want no dust. We don't want you to run between 8 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. We'd rather, it goes on and on, so. Yeah, thank you. Shouldn't ask. Anyway, I want to ask you guys about this, I think I sent Shaq a map for road V.6.
Yeah, I've got that on tomorrow's stuff, but I'll
Well,
sure
actually,
bring
that
it
was
up.
for today.
Okay, but I put it in the wrong place.
Oh, okay. I just
You
wanna
could
vi-
send it as right as you want.
Well, I just want to visit with you before we move on this little idea that we're getting up here. So it's kind of a workshop discussion.
And let's see. Is that the one with the tower, Rob?
Yes. So up on V.6, we have a communication tower that's the main tower, from what I understand. It's a very important tower anyway. It does communicate with the law enforcement, emergency rescue, fire, I believe, from here to Durango and Farmington. And I'm just going out on a limb and listening to Mike talk about it, Mike Chernard. It's a very important tower. So we have it's kind of an issue about this road coming in. V.6 goes out of the Forest Service into private land, then back into the Forest Service to get there. And not that I'm looking for litigation here, but there's a gate there that protects the people from coming in and going up to the tower, but it also is blocking a road that's a green road that we have to maintain. And it's becoming a real issue trying to get up there and keep it maintained when we can't get off the blade and unlock the gate because it's snow drifted and drifted in and all this. So I stepped up to the Forest Service one day and says, how about if we were to go up here and come off of that Forest Service road there and go straight up to the tower from there? And they go, well, how about if you move the gate down here to where it switches back up to the tower? That way you don't have to go I know it's hard to explain, but see where I got an arrow there?
Yeah.
Just left of the arrow, you see that little turn and the green road kicks back up towards the tower, back into the Forest Service. Put the gate down there so people don't go any further into the public land, or private land, I mean. But this gate's been there for years, and I had Doug look in his records, and he doesn't show any agreements with the landowner to put a gate there to protect the towers. I'm not worried about the private land so much as in the towers. So I don't know whether to go ahead and go to litigation, because I'm sure it'll turn into something like that, or just continue working with Forest Service to try to find another easier access, kind of what I'm projecting there or proposed up there with Forest Service. Which, you know, they're not opposed to it. They would just, before they go through all their hoops of clearing and doing all the things they gotta do, maybe we could just move that gate down there to that Y and continue using the green road uninhibited to the tower. And so I just thought I'd bring it up and let you guys put some thought into it and go from there, because I'd have to contact the, I think there's one more, yeah, move that gate there over to where I show it there. I don't know if it's worth the fight, you know, to be honest with you.
So Rob, the gate that's in there now, is that right on the boundary of BLM and Forest Service and county?
No, it's on the, yes, it's on the boundary of the landowner, private, and the Forest Service.
And then this is the green road, this V.6.
Yes, and
Okay.
typically in those situations, we would put a cattle guard there, not a gate. And it's locked, and it's got several locks on it, because that means there's several, including us, we have our lock on it too. So that allows us to open it up in the winter, but when there's severe drifting and snowing, it's hard to get turned around there anyway, much less stop, shovel out a gate, open a gate. And we've got to get up there to open that up at least once a week for Mike to do his maintenance up there, so.
And then where you're proposing it would be moved to, is that off the green road?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that would be on his private land. It would be it's his land. It's a landowner's land to put a gate there. And like Doug said, the green road can't just be gone because it serves other landowners right there, you know? It's a road that services other landowners, not just one. So, I don't know whether to keep pushing to get there or not, you know, just maybe, the Forest Service was interested until we figured out, well, we could just have the landlord remove his gate, and then he may not, he may want to take us to litigation, so, because it's been there a long time. This is something that's been there,
Well, that landowner, he may not want people driving all the way in there to that.
it's a green road.
Oh, it's a green road though, yeah.
Yep, that's the trouble, Joel. It becomes a real sticky deal.
And he owns the property on both sides of the green road?
Yes. Well, the one directly south of the little V6 sign, I believe, is a different landowner, so that accesses them too, so,
So it's a green road, which is a public right of way.
absolutely.
So the gate should have never been locked in the first
Should have
place.
never been there. So I asked Doug, can you go back in any records and see if there's any agreements, back when the tower was put up there, back in the 80s, 90s, whenever, that we would allow a gate to be put there to protect the integrity of the tower, if nothing else. And there's,
This tower was a heck of a fight to get started.
yeah, see, so there was, I don't wanna, that's why I said, I don't wanna jump off a cliff here if there's agreements, and we can't find any information that says that there was ever any agreements to put a gate there, so.
Back then, towers, anytime you wanted to do a tower, it was a fight.
Hmm.
Until cell phones came around, and then towers, oh, yeah.
I'll take one of those.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fight, the last one that went in too.
Yeah. So,
So you're saying the Forest Service, you can work with them to put in a new proposed access?
they were, yeah, Cody was workable. He would rather see us move the gate down there off the green road to stop people from going any further into the private property.
Yeah.
And open that all up, that green road stays open all the way to the tower then. And they're not gonna stop us from going on the Forest Service there either. They're not gonna put a gate there either. They understand that there's gotta be a full-time right-of-way or access to that tower, yes.
So have you talked to that landowner about moving the gate?
No, because I know what the answer is gonna be, so. I have not yet, but I will.
You don't want anybody else down that road because it's been private this entire time.
Yeah, and the Forest Service has an interest in keeping it private down there too for other reasons, you know, like game and fish and different things, so. So I don't know which way to really jump with this, but I think the Forest Service is gonna ask me to, well, I know what they're gonna say is, why don't you explore moving the gate and try your hardest to make that happen before we go to all the trouble of doing a cultural clearance and habitat clearance to build your new road. And if the landowner says, I'll see you in court, I just want to know if he ain't ready to go to court yet, so.
I think the danger is if you start setting precedents where you allow gates across green roads, then you're opening up a whole can of worms. And even,
I can only say for 2 years, we haven't done that.
yep, and litigation's never fun. It's time, it's money, it's all those things, but it's a bad precedent to set. If we start letting gates go across this green road, we're gonna be opening it up all over the county.
So the best option is to move the gate down to where you have moved the gate.
Well, I'll certainly get a hold of the landowner and take him out there and visit with him about it.
I think that's the first step to take,
Yeah.
is get a hold of the landowner and see if he's willing to accept that.
And then,
Why is it, I guess my question to you is, why does the landowner, it's our right of way, correct?
Oh yeah, I just don't think the landowner's gonna be excited to move his gate, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't move his gate. Legally, he should move its gate because it's across a green road.
Well,
But
actually,
He
that,
doesn't have to remove it, just leave it open.
well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's, just can't block it, yeah. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any agreements with the landowner. Being like Lindsay, like Kent said, back in the day, nobody wanted a tower, and there was probably a lot of fighting and bickering and pulling strings to get this thing to happen. And was there anything there? And I can't find anything, so.
Okay.
Or drop it and go talk to the Forest Service and say, no, we're not interested in doing that to protect the integrity of the tower. But I don't think we should, so.
Yeah, if we can move the gate, it seems like that's the most reasonable thing to do.
it's a public road. That would be my thought.
We have not restricted any other public road.
No, but I don't know of one that we probably might have stepped into an agreement to get a tower built either. So that's the only one I can think of that
We
even.
have no agreements right now? There are no agreements?
None have been found.
None have been found.
And as we know from other cases, sometimes stuff turns up in all sorts of interesting places.
Have the conversation with them.
Okay,
Go from there.
okay. That's it. And then you wanted to talk about Chicken Creek?
Now let's talk about another gate.
Okay. Now, this gate, I don't have a lot of problem with, because in my opinion, it's on, Derek's correct, it's an agreement with the Reddit ranches at some point in time where they've got an easement up through there, and it's actually on Forest Service land, in my opinion. We do have it as a green road, but we have a lot of green roads in Forest Service that we share responsibility on. So, 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, whatever it was, the Forest Service came to me, and along with the gentleman with the Nordic Ski Club, and asked us if we would consider plowing the road an additional mile from where we were currently turning around at the Wallace Ranch line. And I said, yeah, I guess, what do you want? And they said, we'd like to have a little
it's gonna be over here
two-car
by Bower
parking.
Lake, isn't
No,
it?
the other way, 41 road.
County Road 41, yeah.
Keep going north.
So we agreed to build them a little 2 or 3 car parking. It was for an overflow out of the main Chicken Creek parking area, Nordic parking on Road 40, and push the snow up into a berm and block that road down there where it says gate with a yellow pin, gate number 1. And we've been doing very well with it. The last 3 or 4 years, we've had some heavy snows one year, and we were able to turn around at the top of the hill at the access into the Reddit Ranch. Nobody parks in our turnaround there. It was part of the agreement. And the agreement was also that the gate would never be closed. That gate 1 would always remain open to allow this to happen. So somewhere along the way, somebody's complained that they can't get to the snow plowing end. Well, that's proposed end. We've never plowed snow to there. Never, ever. We never went that far. Never even went as far as we're going now. So you can go back in history with the road department, clear back in the old days. Never went up there. When I got here 6 years ago, it was a sandstone road. You didn't even want to drive it in the summertime. So we fixed the road up to the gate. Then we made an agreement with the Forest Service. They paid to have us haul gravel up to snow plow end. And then they went from gate number 2 to Road 385 Red Pin. They paid for that, we paid for ours, and we did a joint agreement on that under our Schedule A agreements. So I've never tried to claim any of that as ours. It's just our jurisdiction, so to speak, but it's their road and they pay for all the maintenance on it, so. So my only input on this is I have no intention of plowing the road up to snowplow end, even if they do build a parking lot. I'm going up into their world, and I just don't need to be up there. We got enough roads to plow without that, so. That was what I wanted to say before Derek.
So his question to us, and I'm gonna go off the top of my head here, guys, was he asked us to close that lower gate or to plow
Where
up
it's
to the,
at.
to the parking lot that they were gonna create on the corner.
Well, my understanding was that the agreement to close or not close the gate would determine if they would or wouldn't build the parking lot, if I remember correctly.
I think they said they wanted to close that they would close that lower gate unless we agreed to plow.
But I think what you're saying, Rob, is that still is a public right of way. It's a green road all the way up to the second gate, correct?
Right.
So just as we were talking about gates, if we allow that gate to be closed, we're also setting a precedent of closing the gate, which was the struggle that I had with it. I don't want to close that gate. Now they're saying that we have to plow up to the corner, which that's, or I'm sorry, to build the parking lot up there.
They're saying if they build a parking lot, they want us to plow up to there.
Which,
So if we don't want to plow up to there, then don't build a parking lot. Or build it whatever you want to do, but you building or not building a parking lot doesn't necessarily obligate us to a thing.
No, that's right. And I actually think what we've got going right now is a good deal. It's worked out well. And my opinion of what Derek was asking us is they didn't push back on who had jurisdiction of it on some meeting or another and agreed to let us do what we did, but now they want to go ahead and plow up to there and they'll build a parking lot. Well, that's not my agreement. My agreement was plow to gate number one and be done with it. Turn around and get out of there, so. I don't know what caused all this. Probably pushing a berm up across the road and people couldn't drive on up in there and tear up the road. And I think that was a good move on the Forest Service part, and it was for Nordic skiing, and that was as far as they were gonna go anyway, so. I don't know what brought all this on.
so basically, yeah, I don't think we have any more dollars to spend on plowing those roads, for sure.
No, if they don't want to use that gate one, or if they want to close gate one, then we probably wouldn't even plow up to Chicken Creek County Route 41. I mean, that's where we turn around, is right there where that driveway comes in on the Resident Ranch. That's where we turn around at, where that red pin is.
Down here, and we're
We
blocking
probably wouldn't even
people
do that no more.
access
We'd
to
just
there.
go back to going, about a mile back south of that and turn around where we always did, right at the end of the houses.
But Rob, if we close gate one, aren't we denying access to this property here?
We are,
Well, I don't think we can. I mean, I don't think we, for the same reason we just talked about, we don't want to close gate one.
we don't want to close gate.
And I think that's what Derek's saying. He doesn't want to either, but he wants us to plow up to the end there if they build a parking
They
lot.
built the parking lot, so.
So, they own a blade, you know.
Okay, so we are not gonna close the gate.
No, and right now, I'm gonna continue with my agreements with them. I mean, we have meeting notes with the commissioners. We all agreed to it. This is a good idea. Built them a little parking lot. That's our agreement. If the Forest Service wants out of that agreement, then we'll quit plowing the road up to even that location. We'll go back to where we was for years, about a mile south of that, so. There's no reason to go up there because there's nobody up there, except the 2 or 3 cars that wanna go skiing, you know, on the overflow days. And there is a history with the landowner that owns, I guess it's the Reddit Ranch owns that Hackley Reservoir. People park in front of their only access there, and that's summertime too, though. So there's kind of a white spot in that corner where it says snow plowing in. That's, we had to put signs up, no parking, tow away sections, and it was a mess, you know? So it's just not a good spot.
Okay, we get back here at 11.
So there's our stand at the road department,
Or
our opinion.
fall more within your, to get back with Derek for us, James. As far as letting Derek know that we're not gonna close the gate and that we don't have any interest in plowing the road further than what we currently do per our agreement that was made in the past.
That's it.
Okay.
I guess I'll go now.
Well, you can stick around. There might be something else that you
No,
want
I'll
to.
probably run enough trouble.
You can grab a donut on the way out or some fruit or whatever.
Why don't you take 1.5? Because Joe probably left a half over there.
This is Mr. Half right here.
Mr. Haffy.
Oh yeah, he already got his half out of there. Snuck in here before anybody else got to it.
Okay. Looks like we have everybody in here that we need for the CDAP review.
If you give back part of the property, then you would take a little percentage of revenue each.
Okay, so economic
So-
development team, pull up a bunch of chairs and microphones.
Heather asked us to get this back to her by the end of August. So we'll work on this.
Yeah, so
They
we
took
might as
the-
well just go line by line and discuss.
That is really hard to read.
I'm trying to bigger it, make. Do you read it now?
I printed maybe 2 bigger copies. Do
Oh, wow, now I like that.
you want one? I have 5 copies here,
Joe and I
so
can share.
you guys can
I
share.
can see this.
Who's gonna take the notes? I guess I can enter them in over here and somebody can double check me on. Yes. It is too. Apparently we're taking a lunch break.
So she already sent an email. So will you guys actually start discussing this? I'm gonna go back to roll call because I said I would. And I'm gonna go find out because Virginia's already sent an email. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. So that I can go make this phone call. Come on. So, you're gonna witness this, you're gonna witness this, come on.
Are we going?
I can finish my lunch. In Durango this weekend? I don't know, I thought about it. Are you planning to go?
Well, yeah, I guess as long as we're gonna. I'm interested, but I don't know. My voice matters as much as yours as commissioners as far as actually. Wow. Giving comment. Or when the right time to give it.
To give the comment? This might be our only opportunity in this area before it.
As far as commissioners giving whatever comment, you as far as giving a comment to how you would implement that, because the one proposal clearly split the county and went down in and around what's happened. And that's over, and without looking at the details of how that would happen or what line would be followed, or getting into the nitty gritty of if they're splitting streets, houses,
Or-
that's what I would look at.
Or even other districts?
Right.
I mean, I don't know how to explain that. Because then, my understanding is once they do make that determination is before we can make our determination for commissioners, because they can overcross.
I guess I'd like to see if that's, I've never followed that as far as commissioner districts. We've made commissioner districts whatever logically makes most sense.
Right.
We've never considered what other house would.
Okay. Not that drastically, I wouldn't think.
And in some ways, it would almost be impossible, it's almost impossible to switch districts, just other districts.
That, we would literally be revamping all of our splits and all of our elections.
Because otherwise, we're still paying for more property of the same property.
They had, but in some ways, if there's no other choice, then I think there would be no better option.
I'm not sure why of all the counties, why, I mean, there's a few counties that had pieces taken out of them. There's nothing that was that divided.
Don't change it.
Well, I think it's,
I just got to thinking, okay, so who's
I think there's either two reasons. Either it's politically motivated, and they do it on or in some cases, it's because nobody knows or like, or it's some, you know, GIS tech, literally, that is grouping blocks together that doesn't know how that affects the inner workings of governments and communities. So it could definitely be any one of those. And I guess the best option is just some GIS grouping things together and say, no, that doesn't work.
Kind of collect.
Because they do need to track.
Right, well, and I'll be honest, with you, I'm not sure even after everybody makes their comments, whether it's gonna make any difference. But that's just my opinion, my personal opinion. I hope it does.
Well,
He must be thinking,
and there's a place
oh,
where
I stand here too. And here's this kid who's my supervisor, and the office is turned upside down.
I'm moved into a
you and commissioners.
vacant room that's
Whether a person or the tool in your official capacity.
People's eyes get a little big.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I know they've been discussing it with the CC, or the CCC.
How are you boys doing?
Like Rachel was saying, it's like, why is San Juan County, why isn't San Juan County in the,
How's the high school
you know,
football?
water?
You know, I have no idea what
As far as logically, and then you could probably shift that line where they're, if they have to split.
Just become one of these.
Montezuma County, they're gonna do it at a logic, we all know that we're already aligned with what we.
both sides of the ball.
But other than that, they're stout.
We did this redistricting once before, 4 or 5 years ago, well, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where they took J. Paul. Remember that whenever they adjusted Lopata and took, I'm not quite sure how they did it, it was before my time. But what I was told was the reason they did that was political. Affiliation. I don't know. That's what keeps me.
Yeah, there's smart enough people that are working on it, but it's probably not.
He's got the same shot at anybody who's completed it a long time. Toothpicks, but he puts on 25 pounds.
Because if you want, well, I mean, look, if you want, Cortez, that's a more 50-50 split than the rest of the north and south.
It wasn't Jay, was it? Jay Raymond? Yeah.
So he lifted with him the summer before June.
Yeah, yeah.
Multiple
gone. Coach Morton said, never forget. Terry Steves, I don't know if you remember Terry. Terry and I were there. We went to Boston. That's the we were having fun. Man, they got to play some. I think it was coaches. Just seemed to be kind of stopped. He looks at Coach Archer. What are you doing? They were last year. And I mean, poor Arch is just standing there, he's a big old guy. And you know Arch, but I mean, man, Wade, he had a way.
Will be right
He was
here.
thinking, oh, man, better Arch than me. But if it's you, though. Of course, I had to song back.
So, thank you for witnessing that, so nobody can say.
Witnessing what?
So funny. Banging down the Mexican door at 5:30. So, to live, to swim. Parents just hated that.
Just got in the way.
Never understood that.
Hey, where you going with that? Got in the way to slow down.
I always figured, kids swim fast. It makes sense.
Well, that's the name of the game.
But it's not the way. There's no correlation.
Yeah.
We ready?
Yeah. I don't know. Why are we waiting? Why did we break? You need to make a phone call. I had to go pee.
Okay, we're ready. How to make a phone call before the day ended for the state. All right, I apologize for that. So, here we are. Some of these things I think, well, I'll let you guys start, or Shaq, do you want to start?
Yeah. Start with getting our economic development team back in here. Team!
Do you want me just to give you these notes? I'll make a copy.
So basically, I have the county portion of the CDAP, the Community Development Action Plan, up on the screen here that we needed to agree to or edit for Region 9. And so, unfortunately, how many columns are there across? A few. All the way up to M, the letter M. So, my suggestion would be let's just go row by row and see if we, if the commissioners have any changes they want us to submit. I know the economic development team's already put a good deal of work into this. These aren't in ranked order. As you can see from column C, they're just alphabetical order. So, but these are the items that have been felt need to be addressed over the next 2 to 5 years. And so the first one, the first category is agriculture. And if you remember, I'll just, some of the stuff that you see in column D, that's the state economic development. E is how it links to resiliency. Who's going to be working on it with us is in column H, and then funding and cost estimate. I think probably mostly what we're interested in is agreeing to column L, and M, where are we in the process of this now? So the first thing under ag, the state's priority is to leverage the unique assets of rural Colorado. Insert politically inappropriate comment here about that being beef. And we'll keep going. So outcomes and impacts that they're shooting for is reestablishing fruit industry. I think we see a lot of work going on with MORP there. Integrate fresh pack and juicing operations, retain and maintain rural character of the county, protect lands for grazing. I know that's a big part of it, especially with the Flodine discussion. Regional network and educated events, Ag Economics Summit and Beef Cow Symposium, CSU Extension and Mesa Verde partnership on agritourism programs, and then estate and succession planning for ag producers and increasing jobs in ag sector usage, using 2018 as the baseline. Do you have any edits for that?
Well, I would question number 8. What baselines are you using? What
Probably
what-
how many
In-
jobs there are.
In 2018, Region 9 did a study to find out how many jobs are in each sector. So all that baseline tells us is at the compared to the 2018 says this is how many ag jobs there were in 18, and what we're saying is we want to see the trend in ag jobs go up from 2018.
Well, I would say that 80 to 85% of your ag jobs are family oriented in Montezuma County. There's not much room for.
I mean, we did a lot to increase family sizes during the lockdowns.
So maybe the succession planning as part of that job retention and expansion?
do they?
And we can increase ag jobs by promoting and recruiting value-added industries.
Which I think we have with, in the last 2 years,
Mhm.
Momney has an increased added value
Correct.
to the agricultural industry.
The cidery,
What's the cider place, the one in Mancos now? What is it called?
fence line?
What is it?
Fence line and then
Fence line?
Esoterra and Dolores.
Well, you know all the breweries.
So those have been increased. I don't know if we need to change anything on that.
Okay.
Do you guys? I don't.
All right. The second one is also under the agriculture heading, and partners labeled there are Southwest Farm Fresh, Area Growers, the Food Coalition, MORP, National Young Farmers Coalition, Montezuma Land Trust Conservancy. Let me know if you want to edit anything there. And then the outcomes are to promote ag use of small land parcels, maintain and expand the ag sector, farmer education around running a business, collaborate with healthcare sector on organic and healthcare foods, expand and buy local opportunities. I think one of the best way to do that is to expand more USDA facilities here, like nominees, however you say it.
Well, they've passed the deal now, the farm to plate deal, where these ranchers don't have to go USDA to sell meat anymore. They can sell straight I
To the
mean,
individual.
straight to the individuals with packaged meat instead of
Hmm.
quarters, halves, and wholes. They can do piece it out now, so.
Well,
That's a big thing that's going on in this community right now. Everybody's selling meat. So,
Without going through a
without
USDA
going, yeah.
packing plant. So in other words, like Dick,
Well,
what's his name? Bell, yeah,
Bell
they're not-
Meats and
yeah,
all
they
of
can
those guys,
sell
they
it.
can sell without going USDA. They do USDA, but they don't have to.
Yeah, that's
So number 5 is expand buy local opportunities, and so that definitely falls under that. Number 6, educate media and consumers on complexity of ag's cause and effect on economy. I think the other thing that needs to be included as part of number 6 that we could focus on, that's already kind of in there, is educating people on country of origin labeling. I think that's pretty important for,
Yes.
I would add Montezuma School to Farm as a partner, or at least somewhere in here, because they're working on like the next generation of food growers.
oh, I don't want to do that.
You hit Alt Enter.
But I think Heather Otter with Region 9 came up with a lot of these lists in the spreadsheet for us, right, Shaq?
Correct.
We didn't do all of this work, and in fact, this covers some ground from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe at Young City Cortez, which we had no.
Yeah, the
no
other
comment on cities.
the other tabs across the bottom we won't be going over. She did a lot of that, and she worked individually with our team for this.
Right.
So yeah, and she did all the legwork putting it together as well. Did we need to address anything else under that? Educate and engage youth with outdoors and agriculture and genetic testing of fruit through MORP. Value-added ag industry, supportive businesses, and processing. Any edits for that?
Nope.
Okay.
Would the USDA NRCS office be a partner?
They could be,
Not-
potentially. USDA, a lot of money
US
flows through
yeah,
there.
USDA could be.
I mean, we have them listed under funding source, but. Should I talk louder?
Okay. All right, and then the last one under ag, and this is the resiliency link is future ready economy and workforce. And that was going after the value added ag industry, supportive business and processing. Do you have anything else for getting the future workforce ready for ag? Go ahead.
The college PCC, I would consider them a partner now that they've added the ag program at the school.
Even some of the ones that were raised aren't staying
No.
Is it still PCC or is it SCCCCCC?
SWCCC.
I think they've switched to going by PCC.
PCC Southwest.
I mean, I could just put the whole alphabet. How do you spell Mississippi? That's a pop quiz for you, Rachel. How do you spell Mississippi?
MISSISSIP.
No, it is M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, I.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. That was right on the tip of my tongue. I just blurted it out.
That's way before her time.
I would also suggest that we add the Colorado Agricultural Leadership Program, CALP, to that, which I will do.
Have we talked to any of these other people?
No, but they're already actively engaged in it.
Just adding them.
Oops. And of course, I think it goes without saying that the county has a CSU office and 4-H involved in that.
That's a high
Future
school.
farmers.
That's high school, right?
In terms of workforce, we could also partner with the high school.
Oh, under the, okay. Business development is the next section. And the state goal is to make critical investments in community infrastructure, building infrastructure, project expanding utilities. I don't know that I agree with their ranking of low on that, but they have their own ranking system. Work with county partners and utility providers to develop utilities in expanding areas of the county. We are doing that, and we've started having those. So I would, those meetings, we've just started having those. I would call that in progress. I'd like to challenge Heather to move that a little further up the higher priority list, because until we develop those things, we're going to have zero success recruiting industries until we have some of this mapped out for them. So I know they've got their deal on ranking that, but Rachel, will you make a note to question that with Heather?
Yeah.
Thank you. So the next section is under business development as well, support local community success in energy transition. Again, that's the state goal. The resiliency link is to build infrastructure and sustainability. Solar array, we've got at least one going in. Partners are the county, the tribe, and Empire Electric. Funding sources, private investment and business grants. And then outcomes and impacts. Seek private partnership and investment. Feasibility being determined, and available land and sunlight capacity. A lot of those are in progress. Like we said, we just approved the one solar farm. Do you guys have anything that you want to add to that?
Do we have two of those going on right now too? Wasn't there the other
The
one
one
over
Off
by
29?
Taunton Lake off of
29.
Yeah.
29
That
east,
one's
right?
in the process.
Yeah, and north of the, yeah.
And of course, the county and all the municipalities are doing their own to offset their own energy. What is Empire Electric doing to offset their energy consumption? Are they putting up any solar panels?
We have some.
Okay.
Plus
When,
we're all part of the cooperative at Tri-State, which is putting in 2 over 100 megawatt solar arrays.
where are they putting those in?
One in Zuma County, one in Dolores County.
Okay, those two are both pretty close. All right.
Yeah, these, the ones we approved were nothing that big.
No.
No.
They're 2 to 5, I think, is all they were. They're small, way small in comparison to that.
Okay. Next chunk is begins the education portion. The state goal is to make critical investments in community infrastructure. And the resiliency linkage there is future-ready economy and workforce and community capacity. Identified project, Pueblo Community College Southwest distance course offerings and student enrollment in early college, concurrent courses in academic and CTE. And funding sources is all the state there. And let's see, the outcomes that they're hoping for is release the draft comprehensive plan, identify the heart and soul of Cortez to drive decision making. I'm not sure who put
This
that
all
in
looks
there.
Cortez focused, is
Yeah.
that a mis-
Well, it's Cortez Focus, and it's based out of the Mancos campus of PCC, which is in the county. So I'm not sure if this is in both tabs or not. But if we're talking countywide, then yeah, we should be talking about municipalities instead of just Cortez. So I'm going to put in italics municipalities.
And I'm not sure if the heart and soul to drive all the decision making, is that really?
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I'm
I
not,
don't even
I'm
know
not
it's in
sure.
the right spot.
In fact, I'm
Yeah.
going to,
I'm not sure we really want
Is
to
that what yours
put that
says
in
too?
there as to drive the decision making if it's just the
It's-
heart
yeah,
and
because
soul of
people in
Cortez.
the
I think
other
that would be-
parts of the county may not want that to drive, that may
Yeah,
not
I
want
don't-
Cortez to drive
No.
their decision making.
No, it needs to be taken out of there.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna change that to red for Heather and also put remove question mark.
Well, because it mentions rewriting the Cortez land use code. And that's not something we could do.
Maybe we should.
You can be a part of it.
Because that's, we're talking specifically to Montezuma County, not.
Yeah,
not
I
to the
agree
city
with
of
you on that one.
Cortez, right?
I put in there a note for Heather to consider removing that or put it into Cortez. That's not really our bailiwick there. So, Health and Human Services. Oh no, second education. The state goal is to fulfill every child's potential. So that starts with the assumption that every child has potential. Future-ready economy and workforce, community capacity. That's for the schools. So there they have complete restoration and reuse of Calkins School Building in Cortez. I'm not
Which
sure
is-
that's on track.
No,
That's
because
going
it's
for housing, not
housing
for
right now.
education. Restore the building historical and functional state, encourage redevelopment, other historical building. So we're
Something like that.
definitely. Come on.
I think those columns got messed up
I was
somewhere.
gonna say, this isn't,
There's nothing,
there's nothing for education in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't-
because like those two are repeated down, further down again.
we just have to note that error.
I'm gonna highlight that. That clearly doesn't go with what we're talking about. That's a housing issue.
Yeah.
I don't know if after Chairman Candelaria's half a donut, he went over here and played with the spreadsheet or.
No and no.
Sneaky Jim.
All right, the next piece is under Health and Human Services. The state's goal is to save Coloradans money on health care. The relation is community capacity. It almost seems like one of these columns, rows is offset. Southwest Memorial Hospital is involved in that. Colorado Rural Health Center, Axis, Southwest Health Net, Colorado Rural Outreach Placement Grants, undetermined, maintain current employee numbers, economic study. Sustain Southwest Memorial Hospital as primary rural provider. I think we can all agree to that. Sustain community's ability to accept new Medicaid patients and to accommodate aging population. I think that's a big one that involves senior housing for sure. Implementation of televideo capabilities through Axis. Keep Southwest Memorial Hospital function as an enterprise zone project, and completed economic impact study on hospital job impact. I think all of those are okay. I'd like to add a goal going back to the original. Whoops, what did you guys do? If we're going to save Coloradans money on healthcare, I think a lot can be done in pushing healthy eating habits and active lifestyles. I think that'll save people a lot of money on healthcare in the long run and cost very little to do.
Access to food.
Well, I mean, having our public health department work on promoting healthy eating and active lifestyles, I think can be done at a very low cost. And I think, bar none, everybody realizes that you do the most good from your health when you eat right and exercise. I mean,
Yeah, right.
yeah, Chairman Candelaria left you half.
Oh, I didn't touch a donut.
Jan, if you're listening, your husband had
touch
half a donut and no salad.
Donut.
The biggest problem with that is no one has time to go home and cook dinner anymore. Everybody is eating prepared meals with preservatives and all that stuff, and I bet there 10% of the population goes home and cooks a home-cooked meal for their kids anymore. They take it out of a box
Or a drive-through.
or a drive-through, and I don't know how to change that.
I think another side thing is like keep retaining good employees, and part of that is having jobs for their spouses, because I know that is a big issue at the hospital when they hire people who move here. But it's probably not the only industry that experiences that.
Anything else under that one?
Nope.
So you want to be a spreadsheet editor, huh? Okay, housing. Make critical investments in community infrastructure, housing attainability, future-ready economy, housing manufacturing. I think we're doing some recruiting on that. Recruiting, housing, manufacturing.
Ongoing.
That should be in progress.
Absolutely. Okay, second one under housing. Make critical investment, community infrastructure, housing attainability, affordable home ownership, educational programs, homes funds, Habitat for Humanity, Montezuma County, CDFI. I'd also, now that we have a local partner, I think I'd like to include CHAFA on that list, now that we have a Southwest director. Mr. Chris Lopez. So I'm going to add CHAFA to that.
And is that supposed to say Housing Authority of Montezuma County? Because it just says Montezuma, Montezuma.
I would probably think so, yeah.
How about the Pinion Project?
Are they actually providing housing?
They're going to build that 50-unit apartment, and that's phase 1 of 3 in the city of Cortez.
In the city?
Are they gonna manage it?
I don't know, because they're partnering with the tribe to do that. So I have no idea how that's gonna look or what the timeline is.
I'm not going to touch that one then.
But they're definitely taking steps to address these, so.
Yeah. And they may be able to work other places in the county, so I guess I could add them, but I'm going to stay away from the particular project. Oops.
Well, how did we put that cost in there? Where did that come from?
Based on? That's ridiculous.
That seems really low.
That's not even realistic.
Yeah, I screwed up on the page somewhere, and I'm not sure where we are, but it said 15K per unit, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's not realistic
I got some
anywhere.
tough sheds I can sell you.
Add a 1 in front of that.
I'm not even sure you
100.
can get a tough shed for that, to be honest.
Maybe they meant 150.
What was it, one out on Montezuma or out on Empire was 300K plus per unit?
Brubaker?
Yeah.
Those are bigger units, so I think those were all 3-bedroom.
Mhm.
They're
They
they're
are.
much, they're
They're
more
like
like,
apartment.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some question marks there for her for that.
You can't even put a little tiny home in for 15.
Well, not with that attitude. And I don't know what the, I would agree to get them down to 15,000. You're going to have to do a complete rewrite of City of Cortez land use code. However, I don't think that's a county goal.
And I'm thinking the Calkins building thing is supposed to be one up. Because if you look at the,
Yeah,
that would
something's,
make more sense.
something is offset there. Because I agree. I don't know why that one's in there, so I'm going to highlight both those cells. Because something's in there that doesn't belong there for sure. And if it's offset one the rest of the way, we'll know that half a donut changed something. Let's see. Next one is Parks and Rec. And it looks like we have several of those, but under, the state has that as unique assets of Colorado, building infrastructure. And this goes back to the McPhee Recreation Plan. The partners are us, the municipality of Dolores, the Forest Service, CPW, DWCD, and state parks.
I think you're skipping one, because the first one is paths to Mesa Verde specifically.
Oh, I did skip one, you're correct. You are correct.
Watch your big sheet with you, because Shaq's got me dizzy trying to keep up with him on that
That's
thing.
why I wanted it, because he did this.
And I think that's also again offset by the one, it says, release. So I think this again is offset one. I think we need to go down to line 13 for this. Release draft comprehensive plan, that has identify heart and soul of Cortez again.
Take it out.
Well,
Why is it in
Yeah, I
there?
think that's wrong.
I think there's a formatting thing in there.
But I think the one below it is in the correct spot, so.
So I'm gonna highlight that for her too. I'm not sure how
What's an
these are.
Heater wave attenuation system.
That's a brake wave.
You
Yeah.
gonna do some surfing somewhere?
It was, no, it was to stop the waves. It was attenuator is what they call it. Wave eaters,
It's breakwater, is what it is.
breakwater.
Oh, okay.
Like tires, except for it's
Yeah,
not
okay.
tires, it's much more.
It's more fancy.
I thought maybe they're gonna
Different
sell
material and more
admission,
efficient.
just sell t-shirts.
Lightweight, so you don't have the stress on the structure.
So you don't get to charge admission and sell t-shirts for a wave eater, huh?
Yeah.
Only during Shark Week.
Okay, line number next. Pursue countywide trail plan. Whoops, this is going the opposite way of the way I tell it to.
That'll be January 10th.
Number 17, I think, is where you're at, right, Shaq?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
So that involves the McRack, Montezuma County, Greater Dolores Action, U.S. Forest Service, BLM, municipalities, undetermined, and pursuing countywide trails plan, interconnect communities in Montezuma County by developing multi-use trails, identify and mark trails for mountain biking and hiking. And as far as those bike trails in between, I think if we secure the easements and put up the grade lath marking where the path is, I think those paths will put themselves in pretty quick. Attract and promote bicycling. Produce maps and promote through visitor center, chambers, and businesses, recreation businesses. Attract residents and visitors to four-wheel drive, OHV, and bicycle through 160 miles on a motorized route from Sage Hen to existing roads. So that's tying into Rim Rocker. And then address public access to BLM land south of Summit Lake via private land. And that one's addressed, right?
That
So I
one's
could put
already
completed
addressed.
next to that.
Can I
Built the parking lot.
suggest partners on this that are doing some of this work already?
Yep. Which column is partners? Because I didn't lock that at the top.
Get the gate out and it's all extended the road up to the, yeah. Okay.
H?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mancos Trails Group, they went and put signs so that there is a spur off of the Colorado Trail that goes into Mancos instead of Dolores. So trying to promote people,
What did the sign say?
Mancos Spur of Colorado Trail.
I thought it said long-haired freaky people need not apply. Although, given the recent economy and the workforce shortage, long-haired freaky people may indeed now apply.
Also, SWCA, the Southwest Colorado Cycling, they do a lot of the trail work.
What was that acronym again?
SWCCA, SWCA. And then Mesa Verde Country, they do the advertising and tours and promotion.
I'm gonna have to go back and make this bigger. You said Mesa Verde Country?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one under Parks and Rec. And this ties to future ready economy and workforce. And involves Colorado Parks and Wildlife Bureau of Land Management and Forest Service. $500,000 for capital improvements for at least 2 public outdoor shooting ranges. Create a safe designated all-season outdoor range for target shooting and for shooting competition, grow jobs in the retail and hospitality industry. Any additions to that?
Who's working on that one?
We've been working on that with BLM. And actually, Town of Mancos would be a partner in that too, probably.
Oh, right. 'Cause
I
on
know
that
some
new
of the
aqueduct
people from the
area,
4-H
thinking
shooting
about that?
sports was wondering what they were gonna do next year if they shut the one down out there across from the fairgrounds. Cause that's where they go to do all of their competitions and practicing and stuff.
What is the sport where you ski and shoot?
Biathlon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to have a few of those around here.
Yeah, we have great cross
We
country
could work with the
skiing.
Forest Service for that up at Chicken Creek.
There you go. High altitude biathlon.
You shoot at the skiers or what?
The skiers are the ones doing the shooting in that scenario, Joel.
I thought you got to shoot at skiers.
As long as they shot the target.
We are still on YouTube, gentlemen.
Sorry about that. I just misunderstood that.
Just don't shoot the horse that's pulling you.
Now, that's we could combine them all. Like in Silverton, they have the horses pulling the ski jumpers. And if you have the ski jumper shooting something while he's being pulled from the horse, it becomes that much more
Or
interesting.
we could go to the next line item and keep going. So why don't we? stay
What are you
focused
trying
and
to say,
keep moving
Chairman?
on?
Next one is under public infrastructure. Leverage the, I don't know why they grouped this under the unique assets of rural Colorado. Pretty much everywhere has to have infrastructure, but address native fishery health below McPhee Reservoir. Do we have a fishery below the reservoir? We have native fish.
We do have.
We have a fishery for the trout down there
We got one
Well, when we
above
have water.
when we
McPhee.
have water.
Yeah, when we have water.
And putting the trout fishery in there is what's devastated the native fish on down the deal, so.
Well, the smallmouth bass have devastated the native fish too. So,
So mankind has devastated the fish.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. That's correct. So, address native fishery health below McPhee Reservoir. Continue work on 2013 implementation of monitoring and evaluation plan for native fish. I'm not sure who's the lead on that. Is that CPW?
Yeah, we say it's CPW, CWCB.
And then continue discussion of ways that native fish can be protected. 3, community education. And I'm going to say we need to get rid of the smallmouth bass, which is the biggest problem down there. They're out competing the native fish.
Smallmouth bass eradication. The drought might be helping.
Well, the drought is helping
I
that
think-
situation better than anything.
Yes.
Because the native fish will live in those pools and stuff, and those other fish will die off. So
Well,
the
under
drought is-
community education, I wonder how many of our anglers know there's no limit on smallmouth below the dam. You can catch all of them and take them all home. I mean, maybe we need to promote more of that.
What about weed mitigation?
I
Help with water levels?
I mean, the BLM has done a credible job destroying free adelphites south of the dam, or downriver of the dam, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, they've done a really good job getting rid of the free adelphites down there. So, everywhere else, upriver, yes, that would put more water in the drainage.
Oh, would you put Dolores County then as a partner?
In Dolores County, but we can't tell them what they should or shouldn't do in their county. Okay, then next under public lands, invest in road and bridges, infrastructure sustainability, planned Forest Service road projects, which includes Forest Service, BLM, and the county. Also as partners, Federal Highway Administration and cooperative agreement between county and Forest Service. Complete planned Forest Service road projects, support upcoming timber sales, resurfacing and brushing on Taylor Creek Road. That's the Forest Service, and that's in progress. Should I include the town of Dolores as a partner? I'm just going to keep going. Shut up.
Would you consider Dwarf as a partner? Because they've done a lot of the work connecting timber and.
Are they doing the road work, though? This is specific to roads.
Just
Oh,
roads.
yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. Next under roads and bridges, determine the jurisdiction of the Dolores Norwood Road. And that's the Forest Service and the county. Resolve jurisdiction in progress. Gravel is completed on 4 miles of road. Actually, chip seal's completed now.
Correct, all the way to the county line.
I was on that yesterday, it's nice.
That section.
Yeah, it is.
Dolores County's actually been doing a pretty dang good job of keeping their road bladed up. That's through the time or two I've been up there,
When we got there last
Oops.
a couple of weeks ago. And then right after the big rain they had up there, Forest Service was really working those roads over.
Well, Ian, I guess that's your assignment. Did we make the assertion that that was an RS 2477?
We did.
Okay. And then, so this goes into public-private lands, leverage unique assets of rural Colorado, climate and natural hazard resiliency, forest health, water, wildfire risks, all the public lands and timber industry, county comp plan, and higher fire hazard mitigation contracts, and address health, water, and wildfire risks. So 1 is reduce fire risk, 2 is strengthen timber products industry, 3 is improve forest health, 4, reduce risk to life and property and protect watershed community infrastructure, 5 is defensible space education, resulting in defensible space created around values at risk, and 6 is reduce negative impacts of insect infestation. Boy, you guys got your work cut out for you.
That's a tall order. Number 6.
You guys want to add anything to that list, or is that enough to keep you busy?
Why can't we take it away?
What do you want to take out?
Number 6. I mean, we removed some of these other things. That's,
You know, one business we're talking to, Timber Age, might be able to help with that. So you want to remove number 6?
I'm just asking.
What about training? You know, like they did for evacuations, practicing evacuations and ready bags and. I mean, because is this work on the forest, or is this work with the people, or both?
Well, under reduce risk to life and property, I think training would be under that. I could indent letter A there. Well, we even have defensible space education, so.
Okay, so maybe it's already embedded in there.
Yeah, it's kind of an understood. And I guess we can delegate that to Spratlin. Spratlin, if you're listening, address that. Okay, Montezuma County telecommunications, critical infrastructure, broadband fiber optic, high priority. Has Southwest COG as a partner, and then the municipality, Cortez, Dolores, Mancos, Montezuma County, DOLA. Well, you can read the possible funders there. Support construction, recreation, tourism, and timber. Oh, 1 general manager position. So expand broadband fiber optic connections, Cortez and Montezuma County. I think that should actually say municipalities of Montezuma County. What do you think?
Yes.
Regional broadband plan, Cortez broadband feasibility study. That's up to Cortez if they want to do that. Cortez fiber projects, to the home, 5th, to meet needs of business residents and home-based businesses. Again, if Cortez wants to do that, we might partner with them, but I don't know if that belongs in our part of the CDAP.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm going to make a
We're
note,
gonna remove it.
partner with, but but not oversee.
Well, I wonder how much they've worked with Cortez on defining these goals, because, I mean, they've done feasibility studies over the years.
The COG?
Cortez has a number of different feasibility studies, so.
What was the result of the studies?
That it was unfeasible.
It was, yeah, it was gonna cost, well, the last one was that it was gonna cost money, and it may not be feasible to do it, was the bottom line.
I mean, I'm not laughing because that's what it showed.
Mhm.
But
I'm gonna highlight this one for question then.
the new grant money or stimulus money that they're putting out, I mean, that study did show that it was not feasible.
Will include dark fiber available for leasing. That may be coming up very soon.
I think the bottom line for that study was that it would have to be tax funded, because it wasn't gonna be feasible to do it based on service fees paying for the project. It would have to essentially be government funded to make it happen.
But, yeah, like I said, we have a whole new,
The ARP money?
money, yeah, we have a whole new money source now, where we didn't when that feasibility study was.
Well, and there's gonna be even more specific in Colorado for the middle mile stuff.
Another 60 billion or something, right? It's a lot of money.
Something, yeah. I mean, every time I turn around, they're just another 10 billion here, another 20 billion there. Develop alternatives to the incumbent carriers to provide competition and redundancy. I don't know that it's government's job to provide competition, just to not get in the way of it. Fiber from Mancos Town Hall to water tank to increase for ISP providers. I think Joel has committed us to that. So, finish fiber installation and loop in the town of Dolores. So all of those are in progress.
You don't. Kick it back to you if you don't do it. Queenie,
Oh, sure.
he told me to.
Okay, tourism and economic development. Film industry. Colorado Film Commission, regional film commissions, Mesa Verde Country, private filmmakers, municipalities, public land agencies. Those would have to be grants. Deliverables, connect with film industry, support local business, rentals, food, lodging, builds community reputation and brand marketing outreach and progress. You guys want to add anything to recruiting filmmakers? There was a portion of a documentary series from PBS that was filmed here during part of last year or 2019?
2019.
2019, I believe it was, called Human. And they had a distance runner doing a large portion of our roads out here. So if you haven't watched Human on PBS, part of that happens here in this county.
Did some over in Mancos too, didn't it?
Yeah, the show was filmed in Mancos.
Yeah, what was that called? Badwater?
Oh, I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. They did the pilot, but I've not heard how it's going.
I know, I feel like we talked about the film industry and suddenly there was all these bites on coming here.
Why don't you talk about me having a winning lottery ticket? Okay. Item number next. Tourism and economic development. Public events. All the municipalities and public land agencies. Athletic events hosted in our community, like a cross-country triathlon. And just for Joel, we can do a cross-country triathlon where everybody's shooting at something. Just not each other, Joel.
Works for me.
The recreation and tourism sector of the economy get a boost from the notoriety and reputation that come with popular competitive events. And some of those are in progress. We actually do have some good competitive events here. And there's going to be a race in McPhee between our attorneys soon, right? In all seriousness, though.
Oh, man, does that open for?
In all seriousness, though, if there were to be a triathlon, we now have 2 very good swimmers. Candelaria is a biker. I'm a runner. If we could get one more biker, and I know there's one in the assessor's office, and one more runner, we could have 2 county triathlon teams. Get Joel on a bike, and I just
can shoot it, I can do the shooting.
You don't shoot your bike, Joel.
Put targets on them people. You get across there without getting shot, you win the race.
They call that show Survivor, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, I will survive. I mean, at first I was afraid. I was petrified.
Well, there's a bike race this weekend in Dolores.
Are you going?
I'm not gonna ride in it, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what are you going for if you're not going to
Back
ride?
from outer space.
To drink beer.
Come on.
He's catching on.
Okay, next. Transportation.
Regional transit providers, Montezuma County, the COG, CDAP, municipalities, Ute Mountain Tribe. Create a part-time mobility manager position. Let's see. Expand transit networks through county. A public transit system that addresses commuter population needs. Partnerships with existing transit systems and providers to meet growing transit needs between the communities. Participation in regional transit planning. Maintain current transit services. Recommendation from the COG on transit feasibility report. Recommendation, let's see, for the feasibility between Durango and Cortez with stops at Durango West, Mancos, and the Southwest Colorado Community College. I know Jennifer is actively, in fact, last Tuesday she was working again on the county dedicated route, so hopefully we'll see something in the next year happening with that. Anything you all would like to add to that? I think as part of tourism and outreach and community development, we could have a commissioner-led rickshaw service as part of a meet and greet, all 3 of them running rickshaws around. I think it's a great idea, and all the donations go to a nonprofit.
Does Dolores County have something similar to MoCo?
I don't believe so. Usually it's municipalities that run public transportation. I don't think that's normally a county function. So I would say probably not. Oops, next one is
That's what I'm wondering.
transportation, making critical investments, and then we've got our surrounding states and tribes. And what it is rail connection from Gallup to Cortez and Moab, expand agriculture sector by increasing exports, grow jobs, and manufacturing. I don't know how in progress that is. It's a great idea, but
I know the railroad's coming from Gallup to Shiprock.
to Shiprock.
And what is that? That's like a 20-year project or something that's way down the road.
I'm all in favor of it. I'm not sure what the county's role in it is.
Could you change that to not started?
Yeah, I don't think it's in progress.
I don't either. How about in the wind, but not in progress?
The answer, my friend,
Rumor.
Well, that's what
is
you call it.
blowing
It's
in the
air
wind.
when it's-
Yeah.
being expressed.
Okay, so that's our edits. I'm gonna save that and then let's set up a meeting if somebody on the Eco Devo team wants to set up a Zoom with Heather later this week. We can get back to her and you guys will be gone, so I guess the rest of us will do it and just say, here's the commissioner's recommended changes. As soon as she makes those edits, we'll be good to sign, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Needs her time frame
Yeah,
with those edits, yeah.
yeah. So we can get those back to her. Let me just bring up one more thing under that real quick. We got 3 minutes till what?
Quitting time.
Oh, we don't have any quitters on our team. The state priorities here. This is basically how they linked everything under the state priorities, which were also in that spreadsheet. Did you guys disagree with or want to change any of those? I mean, they were all included in the spreadsheet, but.
I mean, some of it's done, like the bridge over Mancos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the town of Mancos's portion. Yeah.
Are they gonna get this back to her also?
Yes, all the
All the
local
municipalities?
governments are giving their input. We just wanted to be sure on our end. Okay. And then the projects completed between 18 and 20. Health clinic was completed. Collective impact initiative. Create Montezuma Avenue Historic District. Historic preservation, remodel county social services building to the Heritage Museum. Housing, complete new building and implement new programs for the bridge. Parks and Rec, rebuild playground at Joe Rowell. Infrastructure upgrade county fairgrounds facility. And explore construction of a convention center. We did explore it.
You can just
Take
it
that
off.
well off of there.
Well, this is completed. They explored it.
Right.
And they killed it. Complete priority highway, county road, and intersection improvements. We got a lot of those done last year. Implement priority projects and capital inventory asset plan, town of Mancos. So if you have no edits to this document, we'll be good with it too.
Okay.
No. Anything else for the economic development team?
The one area I think we worked on a lot ourselves was the strength, weaknesses, opportunities.
Yeah, what do they call that? SWAT?
SWAT.
Yeah,
And that was something I think was pretty good.
I think so
The
too.
section of that is what we cracked.
Correct.
That and the threats, you know.
Threats and opportunities.
Right. And that's not in this.
It's in the whole document.
Right.
we adopted, yeah.
Correct. It's not in the spreadsheet or what we just looked at though, but yeah. That was good.
But it's kind of a manifestation as well.
Correct. Okay.
Before 30.
Well, it's just time to move on the agenda, and our team will reach back out to Heather with the edits.
Okay. All right, thank you for being here. And we'll go on. So we have a discussion over our budget, Shaq. Do you have that?
Yeah, and I meant to
display?
put 2022 commissioner budget. You guys are fine for this year. But, you know, I'm dyslexic, so.
Mhm.
So, what I wanted to discuss, obviously, your salaries and benefits, well, benefits are gonna go up because that's the nature of the beast. Your salaries are fixed, but one thing that we need to have a discussion on, we reduced this, line item for dues, training, and travel during COVID. The budgeted amount was 25,000, and I want to get some direction from the commission on where you want to take that next year.
So what was our 419 year-to-date amount was 27.5?
Correct, that was for of 2019.
That was prior.
And, but in 2019, Sukla had been doing the majority of the traveling and started taking Jim with him. Now Jim is doing most of it. I've gone with him to a few things, but I think more things are going to be opened up next year, and
You're gonna see less Zoom and
more in person. And how many people are going to be traveling with Jim? I think it's important that more than one commissioner have the connections in case something were to happen to the commissioner with the connections. Those connections that have been made at the state and national level have helped us to leverage some of the grants we've got and implement some ideas, and I think there's value in it. But I want a direction on where to start fielding that number. Are you comfortable leaving it at 2,500? Do you think it needs to go up? Where are you all at?
25,000?
Yeah, 25,000. 2,500 won't travel you very far. What are the other
I'm gonna let you
commissioners'
guys
interest
answer that
level?
Because you're gonna have to be the ones that'll commit to that.
I agree.
I think it should go up because
And let me,
the flights have increased substantially.
well, let me pull something up just for,
It's everything. It's everything.
Hotel rooms have tripled in the last couple of years.
Anybody eat that half donut yet?
Don't worry, Joe will finish it.
I only eat whole ones.
That's right, you'll eat it. You'll finish it.
I would suggest moving it to 40.
So where was it at in the previous years, Shaq? Before COVID?
33, 31, 34, 45. We had budgeted 50,000 in 2020 and then we did
and then we
20
cut it
and
immediately. When we started looking at what we had to cut, dues, training, and travel was the first to go. And keep in mind, because that's dues, training, and travel, some of that is not travel. Some of that's our Southwest Transportation dues, Region 9, all of
Big
that
portion
stuff.
of that is due.
CCI come out of that?
Yep, all of that comes out of that.
And what I've noticed to them, our dues and those organizations are starting to go up.
I would say almost put it back to where we were at 2020.
In 2019, we actually used 45,000.
I agree with Jim. Go
I say
original
budget at that,
25.
and if we don't use it, we don't
Yeah,
use
we
it.
don't
but
use it.
Okay,
As long as it's there.
okay. I will take your direction on that.
The fleet costs we reduced because we gave away all of our vehicles.
Correct. In fact, for the commissioners in 2022, that'll show 0. So, okay, that was what I needed from the commission on that.
Yeah, we should have done that first.
Well, I had to schedule other people's time first. Okay, Planning and Zoning Commission. P&Z, you want to come to the table? P, you want to come to the table? Sweeten. So why don't you give us the brief with Rob Pope and
So
what's
Rob Pope,
happening?
due to some health complications, and I'm not sure what else he has going on, has resigned from the P&Z Commission. He was the chair. Mike Rosso was the vice chair, so he will move up. Friday, Mike indicated that rather than being off the commission a year from December, that December he will probably be done.
Due to all of,
Because he's on about 8 other boards and stuff, and I think he's getting burned out, but that's for him to answer. In lieu of all that, I would suggest that, going off our appointment sheet or our waiting list, sheet that we determined the first of the year, rather than appointing the next, commission member, John Hernandez, to an alternate position, you might want to consider him being a permanent. Eddie Mack will have his position as an alternate come up in December, and at that point he can be reappointed as a permanent. But versus, moving one up, going one more back into the alternate and just keep shuffling, might want to just appoint John as a permanent, because we know there's going to be at least one other opening open in December.
So just a few months away. So
And we
Mike,
know that for sure.
Mike's
Yeah.
planning on.
And I brought this all up a couple of months ago just because and Stan doesn't want to be chair with his voice and hearing issues. It wouldn't be beneficial, but he does, I think, at this point, those guys get some health issues and it changes.
It's been on a year and a half, 2 years.
Stan's been there for a
Stan.
long time. And Mike Rosso was pretty adamant on Friday.
That he'll be departing in December.
Yes,
So he won't even finish out his term.
no.
So kind of looking at that, what we like to do is have like every year, have 2 guys rotating in or out or something different, so that we don't end up with 4 guys' terms coming empty at the same time.
Of course, some of those knuckleheads have term left and then run for commissioner and screw the whole thing up.
Yeah, there's always one of those. But that's not for your decision today. That's something to consider for tomorrow.
We
So
did
we can make
agree
that-
when we did the last interviews, rather than to be continually opening, that we just keep that list
Keep
for a
the
year and
list, yeah.
appoint
We
off
did,
that.
which,
so.
which we created the list.
We've
and
got
I
that
think we had
list.
3 or
3.
three on the list, so.
And we've got a number 1 recommendation.
That will leave one after. So do we need to refresh the list?
If another position opens up, we would need
If it
to.
does, then we have to. But
Yeah.
we made the list.
With,
Well, our alternate, we'll have to
Rosso
pick another
leaving in
alternate
December,
this fall.
that will take the last, one off the list.
Yeah,
Correct.
So
But
So
then
at
we
that
could
point,
address it
we'll
in
have to
2022.
advertise and interview people and
To create a list, a new list.
You know, if something happens, he decides to stay, then we can deal with it at that point, but
And
So
I
you're-
don't see, well,
So your
Stan's
recommendation is to put John as the permanent with the exiting of Rob.
right. And then Eddie's will be up for review in December.
But instead of being an alternate, he'll just actually then finish filling out an actual permanent position for a year.
he would have to, submit a letter of intent
Just
to be
his,
permanent.
Which, got it.
and as far as we know, he's good and willing to stay on board, so I think he would do that.
Bring John off the bench and still use Eddie Mack as the designated hitter.
Right.
I think Bob Orr, he was still on the list, wasn't he?
He would
I'd have to
be
go
next.
back. There was 2 or 3 that were all kinda,
We're gonna use them all in December.
Can't remember who the third one was.
And it sounds like if Mike
Can't
is,
remember where.
if Mike had made up his mind, we'll have it expired by the end of the year. All of them. Okay. Well, I'll write it down and we'll bring it up tomorrow in unfinished business and then we can move it to them.
You can do that in a hurry.
right, yeah, just something to consider with all the shuffling of cards and people and.
Any questions? Any other questions for them?
That's the only item we had.
Okay,
All right,
we'll bring it up under unfinished business.
okay,
tomorrow.
good.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
all right, thank you, sir. Okay, anything else, Shaq?
No, unless you want to deal with anything else that comes before you.
You good?
Good.
Even behind us, so
I think we're good then, so I think we can
adjourn.
adjourn. All right.